My name is Huami. I woke up abruptly from a burning pain between my legs, eyes snapping open to a complete mess around me. Confused, I wondered what had happened. Wasn't I thrown into a zombie horde by Fong Xian and torn apart? But here I was, in a place that felt strangely familiar. Thinking about Fong Xian made me scoff bitterly. As an orphan, I had once treated her like real family, but she betrayed me, not only stealing my boyfriend but also pushing me into the zombies when we were trapped. Yet here I was, alive again, somehow back in time. An entire month before the apocalypse. It was the day after a heartbroken night of heavy drinking. Excitement surged through me. I had a month to prepare before everything fell apart. Without wasting any time, I grabbed my phone. The internet still worked, and society was still functional. I needed to sell everything I could and buy supplies, especially food. In the apocalypse, food would be more precious than gold. Getting out of bed wasn't easy. My legs were sore, and I ended up falling to the floor. Great. Just like in my past life, the man who had been with me had already disappeared. But there was no time to dwell on that. Every minute counted. After a quick shower, I started making calls, selling my family's old house in the mountains. It was a run-down ancestral home nobody wanted until recently, when experts declared it a valuable Yuan dynasty relic worth a fortune. The real estate agent was thrilled when I agreed to sell, and I secured a deposit of 1 million yuan right away. With my finances sorted, I borrowed as much as I could on credit. Then, I contacted the owner of a small supermarket in my neighborhood. I remembered that the store had been looted during the first snow disaster of the apocalypse, and I still couldn't forget the gruesome sight of the owner being dragged through the snow, leaving a bloody trail. I bought the supermarket for 50,000 yuan and immediately took the keys, sealing the place shut and preparing to stockpile. Even though it was small, it had everything: food, household supplies, clothing, and tools. It was perfect for my plan. I called suppliers, ordering 1,000 winter jackets. The supplier joked about my large order, but I played it off, saying it was for a ski club. I paid immediately, knowing that soon, a historic blizzard would cover the land, marking the start of the apocalypse. Before prices shot up, I had to buy as many essential items as I could. Next, I headed to the farmer's market to buy seeds. In the first few years of the apocalypse, before things got too bad, plants could still grow normally. I bought all kinds of seeds, from grains to fruits, hoping to use my ability to make them grow quickly. If I could survive long enough, I wouldn't have to fight people over food. My power, after all, was to grow plants instantly. Even a tiny apple seed could become a tree in moments in my hands. With my preparations in full swing, I stuffed the little supermarket with winter gear and bags of seeds, determined to be ready for what was coming. I stared at my small supermarket, feeling a headache forming. I needed to find a storage warehouse soon to safely stash my supplies before the apocalypse hit. As I was searching rental listings on my phone, the ground started shaking violently. An earthquake? There hadn't been an earthquake at this time in my past life. What was going on? Before I could make sense of it, debris started falling from the ceiling. I rushed to a corner for cover, but ended up buried under the supermarket's rubble. In the chaos, a screen suddenly appeared in front of me. "What is this?" I murmured, confused. Wasn't I in the middle of an earthquake? How did this screen appear? My hand passed right through it, and I pulled back quickly. Having survived years in the apocalypse, I'd seen plenty of strange abilities, so I wasn't too scared. Did I awaken a new power early? And not the plant, growing power I had in my last life, but something different? I had planned to use my plant, growing ability to survive, but now I had an apocalypse supermarket power. Well, that was unexpected. Once the shaking stopped, I pushed aside fallen items and stood up, relieved that my little supermarket hadn't collapsed entirely. The shelves were a mess, with everything scattered on the floor, but at least the building was intact. Outside, I could hear people screaming and crying, trapped in the ruins. Carefully, I made my way to the roller door but found it blocked by debris. I turned back and discovered a new door at the back of my store. Pushing it open, I found a large, empty white room, my level 1 storage. It was bigger than the entire supermarket. I felt a surge of happiness. Without wasting time, I started moving everything into the storage space. Rice, oil, snacks, hardware, winter jackets, and seeds, all carefully sorted. I worked non-stop like a hamster storing food until the supermarket looked empty, with only a few snacks and water bottles left on the shelves. Exhausted and sweaty, I ripped open a snack and started munching when I heard the sound of rescue workers clearing debris outside. The roller door was finally opened, and flashlights shone into the store. A rescue worker, surprised by the neatness, commented, "It's so tidy in here, and there are still lights." Compared to the destroyed buildings around, my supermarket looked like a miracle. The rescue team entered cautiously, shocked to see me standing there, unharmed and calm. I explained, the supermarket must have been built with strong anti-quake measures. The rescuers were surprised but relieved. I offered them bottled water, and though they were eager to continue rescuing others, they accepted. One even tried to pay me, but I insisted it was free. They ended up leaving the money anyway, feeling embarrassed. Just as I picked up the cash, the screen popped up again. Cash register system activated. Sold. 3 bottles of water. Earnings, 10 yuan. Profit, 7 yuan. So this system could even manage transactions? I was curious about what I could do with the money, even though paper currency had no use in the apocalypse. The transparent screen then pulled up a marketplace with various locked buildings that needed money to activate. Was this supermarket encouraging me to keep doing business in the apocalypse? I tapped on one of the strange buildings on the screen, and a little message popped up. Activate level 1 factory, 10,000 yuan needed. So expensive. I had a lot of money in my bank account, so I tried to pay the fee just to see what kind of factory I could get. But then it said, supermarket earnings do not qualify. So I needed to sell items from my supermarket to unlock this? How frustrating. Money in the apocalypse was useless, anyway. People would take what they wanted by force, and later, mutated beast crystals and zombie cores became the real currency. I didn't have time to dwell on it because my phone rang. It was Fong Xian. Ugh, that traitor. I ignored her call, but she kept calling until I answered. Her fake, sobbing voice came through, worrying about me and my apartment complex that had collapsed during the earthquake. Beside her, Qin Ziren, my ex-boyfriend, spoke up, swearing he never cheated. Hearing his voice brought back bitter memories. In my past life, I had broken up with Qin Ziren when I found evidence of his cheating, only to later learn he was involved with Fong Xian. Then Fong Xian betrayed me, pushing me into a zombie horde. Now, Qin Ziren was still trying to deny it, but I had no patience. "We already broke up," I said coldly. "I don't care about you anymore. Stop calling me." Then I hung up and blocked Fong Xian. Finally, I could focus. The internet was coming back online, so I placed a huge order, 20,000 bottles of water. The supplier joked about the earthquake, asking if I was buying for relief efforts. "No," I replied lightly, "I'm planning to sell. With these earthquakes and the colder weather, you never know. It's best to stock up." The supplier seemed thoughtful but probably didn't believe me. Still, within an hour, a truck arrived with my water. The workers couldn't drive up to my supermarket because the roads were blocked with debris. They even helped me carry the bottles into my store. As I hauled the heavy cases of water into my storage, I grumbled about my inconvenient apocalypse supermarket ability. Why couldn't it magically store items like in other novels? Just as I thought that, the heavy box in my hands vanished. The screen flashed, level 1 storage, 52 bottles of water. What? I could store things instantly? All those hours I spent moving everything in earlier were wasted. I sighed but kept working, quickly transferring the rest of the water. It was getting dark when I saw a group of rescue workers approaching. One of them, a man with a familiar face, stepped forward. He took off his helmet and smirked at me. "We meet again," he said, but I couldn't remember him. He seemed irritated that I had forgotten. He finally got to the point. "We need some water," he said, eyeing the bottles next to me. Their supplies were delayed, and the team was desperate. The rescue team had no time to argue or wait for more supplies, so they came to my supermarket, hoping to buy whatever water they could. I smiled and offered them a deal, putting down the box of water in my hands and asking how much they needed. The rescue team leader, A tall, intense man named Gong Yi said he'd take everything I had. I have 10,000 bottles, I replied, holding back some reserves in my storage space. One of the rescue members mentioned that they couldn't carry so much, but Gong Yi dismissed that and insisted the supplies were needed urgently. He asked to add me on WeChat to transfer the money. I noticed his profile picture. A woman lying with her back to the camera, with hair as long as mine and a familiar mark on her shoulder. It felt strange seeing such a soft image tied to someone like him. I introduced myself, and he transferred 20,000 yuan without hesitation. As his teammates carried the first small batch of water out, Gong Yi stayed behind, roaming around the store and making me nervous, especially when he got close to the hidden storage door. It seemed he couldn't see the door, but he did notice my reaction and asked if something was wrong. I brushed it off and asked why he was still here. Gong Yi questioned the empty shelves and my recent purchase of the supermarket. I joked about stocking up for the worsening weather, warning him to prepare too. He didn't reply and just leaned against the shelves, watching me closely, making me feel like prey under his gaze. Before I could ask why, my phone buzzed. More annoying messages from Fong Xian, asking for money from the sale of my ancestral home. I felt my anger boil over and texted back that she'd get nothing from me. Gong Yi's looming presence made things worse as he suddenly guessed my boyfriend had cheated. I was shocked he knew, but before I could ask, his communication device beeped, and he rushed out to help with another rescue. He left me with a strange piece of advice: don't pick men from the trash. Shaking off the weird encounter, I checked my Apocalypse supermarket balance, now just over 10,000 yuan. I activated a level 1 factory, expecting something dramatic. Instead, a simple conveyor belt appeared in my storage, ready to produce empty water bottles, useless to me. Frustrated but determined, I ordered 10,000 packs of instant noodles, knowing how valuable even a bite of food could be in the apocalypse. I checked the time and realized it was Singles' Day, the best day for sales. I quickly opened the shopping app and found the cheapest packets of instant noodles, calculating every discount I could. With a bit of effort, I got the price down to just 50 cents per pack. I placed orders for a variety of flavors, spending a total of 4,000 yuan. While I was waiting for my supplies, I learned about a nearby earthquake that had collapsed a factory making water bottles. The roads were blocked, and my delivery was delayed. Frustrated, I closed my supermarket and walked through the ruins to see what was happening. The devastation was massive. Whole streets were reduced to rubble, and survivors were either complaining about compensation or salvaging what they could. A truck driver from the supply company spotted me, stuck with a full load of instant noodles. The roads were destroyed, making it impossible to move his truck. I gave him 2 boxes of noodles as thanks and asked him to leave the truck there, knowing deep down that the roads might never get cleared. The driver left, muttering about bad luck, but I climbed onto the truck and tested something. Amazingly, I could store the entire load of noodles in my Apocalypse supermarket from a distance. I emptied the truck into my storage and then eyed the vehicle itself. If only my space wasn't already full, I could store the whole truck too. I remembered that to upgrade to level 2 storage, I needed to completely fill my current space. With this in mind, I called my supplier to order 40,000 bottles of water, but they couldn't deliver because they had no bottles. That's when I realized my Apocalypse factory could produce water bottles. I opened the management panel and started production. As the factory worked, my storage began to fill up, and I finally upgraded to level 2. Overjoyed, I ordered my factory to produce even more bottles and then stored the entire truck in my upgraded space. Free truck, what a win! With my new resources and abilities, I was ready to face whatever chaos came next. The other party hesitated for a moment and said, "We are a formal water production plant. Are your water bottles qualified?" He underestimated this girl, thinking that she was just a small-time figure who owned the Lotus Shengxing supermarket. He did not expect that she could actually bring him 40,000 mineral water bottles. But the production process of this mineral water is different from the ordinary one of simply pouring water into bottles. Not only does water quality matter, but it also has to be clean. If some fake factory uses waste plastic to produce mineral water bottles, the water plant will not dare to accept them. Qualifications? Huami hadn't noticed this yet. Just as she was about to look for it, She found a thick stack of mineral water bottle qualification certificates popped up on her control panel. How could this level 1 factory of the Doomsday Supermarket not have the qualifications? Yes, of course I have, and it's certified by the United Nations. Huami held the stack of qualification certificates, which she didn't know whether they were real or fake, and said with a smile, "Don't worry, if there's something wrong with Aquarius's origin, let me suffer the retribution of the end of the world." The supplier then agreed with many thanks and gave Huami an address. She immediately took out a large truck from the warehouse, loaded it with empty mineral water bottles, and rushed to the mineral water factory. The supplier and the director of the mineral water factory were standing at the factory gate, anxiously waiting for Huami's mineral water bottles. When the supplier saw the big truck Huami was driving, he felt it looked quite familiar. But the mineral water factory is waiting to start operation, so I can't care less. As soon as Huami's truck stopped, the factory manager carefully checked the qualification certificate that Huami brought and immediately called the strong young men in the factory to jump on the truck to move the bottles. The water-making machines are already made. The supplier used a computer to do the math for Huami and used the money from the bottle to offset part of the cost. A bottle of mineral water only cost a few cents. The factory manager said that if you can supply our mineral water factory with mineral water bottles for a long time, we will buy these bottles from you at 0.30 yuan each. The supplier said this while wiping the sweat from his forehead and looking at Huami cautiously. As if afraid that Huami would refuse, he smiled bitterly and said, "Now all the mineral water bottle factories in Chongqing have been destroyed by the earthquake. If we need to temporarily transfer bottles from other places, the cost will be more expensive than 30 cents per bottle. What do you think? Please help us." Of course, there is more than one mineral water bottle manufacturing factory in the world, but Chongqing is the only large one. The factory manager explained, "We are a regular water plant. We produce tens of thousands of bottles of mineral water every day. Ordinary small factories simply cannot provide us with so many bottles of mineral water." "Okay, then you should make 100,000 bottles of mineral water for me first." Huami seemed very generous. It was just mineral water bottles. She could get as many as she wanted. The supplier and the factory manager looked at each other, and the factory manager agreed without hesitation. 100,000 bottles of mineral water. This is a big business no matter where it is. The two parties quickly drafted a contract. They would send 10,000 bottles of mineral water to Huami tonight. With the capacity of their water plant, they would be able to deliver all 40,000 bottles of mineral water tomorrow morning. Huami paid the deposit and waited in the factory director's office, just in time to take away 10,000 bottles of mineral water. While she was taking a break, her WeChat ringtone rang. Huami thought it was Fong Xian asking her for money, but when she looked, it turned out to be Gong Yi, whom she had just added as a friend not long ago. What's wrong? Because the other party was a rescue team, and there was a sense of familiarity that Huami couldn't explain, so she patiently answered Gong Yi's voice call. Gong Yi frowned and asked on the other end of the phone, "You're not in the store?" "No. Do you want to buy some water?" Huami felt that this was the only reason Gong Yi wanted to find her. Gong Yi was silent for a moment on the other end of the phone. "Do you still have water for sale?" Huami was quite proud. "Yes, I have lots and lots of mineral water. Enough for your rescue team to drink. Then sell me another 20,000 bottles. Do you have that much?" "Ha ha ha, it's only 20,000 bottles, $3 a bottle. Do you have that much money?" Gong Yi on the other end of the phone also laughed. At this time, after 2 consecutive earthquakes, the prices of mineral water in all supermarkets in Chongqing have increased. Not to mention mineral water that costs 3 yuan a bottle. Gong Yi would buy it even if it costs 30 yuan a bottle. They agreed on the delivery location, which was near the collapsed mineral water bottle factory, where transportation was more convenient. It was already dark at this time, and the 10,000 bottles of mineral water that had just been produced on the assembly line were packed and loaded onto Huami's large truck. She had agreed with Gong Yi to bring 10,000 bottles of mineral water to Gong Yi first. The remaining 10,000 bottles of mineral water will be delivered tomorrow morning. Because the earthquake only came twice, and only the residential area where Huami lived and the water bottle factory were collapsed. So Huami drove a truck, dragging 10,000 bottles of mineral water, and rushed to the rescue team overnight. It was a large, makeshift rescue center. Huami didn't see Gong Yi, and a young man from the rescue team received her. The young man said, "The boss went to rescue. There was an earthquake outside the city." Another earthquake. Huami nodded and said nothing, only asking the young man to take the 10,000 bottles of mineral water in the truck. "This really helps us a lot." The young man called a few people over and unloaded the goods while looking at Huami with gratitude. "You don't know. Our logistics department tried everything but couldn't buy mineral water. The only water plant in Changqing said they didn't have mineral water bottles, so they couldn't produce water. Our logistics department had to go to the next city to buy water, but they said they wouldn't be able to get the water until the day after tomorrow. However, the survivors rescued in the past 2 days need water and cannot wait even a day. If there is not enough water supply, it will cause bigger problems." Huami smiled comfortingly. "It's okay. The only water plant in Changqing sold all the water to me because I'm the only one with mineral water bottles. And your boss sold 20,000 bottles of mineral water to me. Don't worry, you have enough to last until the logistics can be purchased from the next city." So much the young man was a little surprised. There were only about 3,000 survivors here. Did they need so much mineral water? It turned out that they did, and they needed it very much. Because the earthquakes that occurred in the suburbs were not aftershocks, but since the first earthquake, more disasters will surely occur one after another. "Well, I'll pay you then." She didn't quite understand why her cashier interface still only had 7 yuan. After pondering for a long time, she still couldn't figure it out, and suddenly she heard someone calling her from behind. Huami turned around, and it was Fong Xian. Fong Xian at this time looked much younger and more beautiful than the Fong Xian who relied on flowers to survive in the apocalypse. She was wearing a pink tweed coat with a rhinestone brooch on the collar. Her long hair was curled into big waves. She came over with a happy look on her face. "Ah, sister, you really worried me to death. I knew I would find you here." All the survivors rescued from the collapsed residential areas and factories in Changqing were placed here. In the past 2 days, all kinds of people have come here, some to visit relatives, some to conduct interviews. So Fong Xian went straight into the medical rescue center. The expression on Huami's face turned cold in an instant. "What are you doing here?" She didn't go to Fong Xian, but Fong Xian came to her house. Was she looking for death? Fong Xian didn't feel the danger coming. She held Huami's hand with her newly manicured hands and put on a pitiful look. "Sister, you hung up on me last time, and I couldn't get through to you after that. Please don't be like this. We are good sisters, aren't we? How much did our ancestral home sell for? Sister, just tell me." "Sister, last time I told you, I wanted to buy a house in Changqing, so you bought it for me." Her tone was coquettish, as if as long as she put on such an attitude, Huami would agree no matter how excessive her request was. Huami looked at Fong Xian carefully. She is pretty and charming, and when she acts coquettishly, she is the type men love the most. However, Huami saw something ugly in her. Huami couldn't help but laugh at herself. Why couldn't she see the strong stench coming out of Fong Xian's soul? Seeing Fong Xian stunned, Huami asked, "What do you mean by our ancestral home? Your last name is Fong, and mine is Hua. My Hua family's ancestral home has nothing to do with you. Why should I spend money to buy you a house?" She is quite strange, really. What kind of logic is Fong Xian using? Fong Xian also thought Huami was quite strange. From childhood to adulthood, she had eaten Huami's food, worn Huami's clothes, and she took away most of the scholarships Huami received. Isn't this natural? How come the money Huami got from selling the ancestral home can't buy her a house? Fong Xian pouted. Sister, I'm going to be angry if you say that. How can you say that? From childhood to adulthood, you always. It's because I'm always so stupid that I've raised a lazy vampire like you. How much money have you taken from me over the years? Is it enough to buy a house? Tell me. Huami interrupted Fong Xian directly, shook off Fong Xian's hand, and looked around. Their quarrel had already attracted the attention of the garrison. Because there are thousands of survivors here, in order to maintain public order and stability, the garrison team is responsible for maintaining order on the scene. Huami didn't want to kill anyone at this critical moment of stockpiling supplies, so she could only raise her eyebrows and look at Fong Xian. "Get away from me. Don't let me see you again, otherwise next time, you won't be able to return safely. She would always make Fong Xian pay back everything she owed her, either with money or with some part of her body. However, Fong Xian did not feel the murderous intent from Huami. It is difficult for people living in a stable world to have such wild intuition. She just walked forward crying, trying to hold Huami's hand. Sister, don't be like this, sister. Huami turned and left, leaving Fong Xian with a heartless look on her face. Seeing Fong Xian was about to chase her, Huami suddenly turned around, pursed her pink lips, and pointed at Fong Xian with a slender white finger. The meaning in that posture was full of a hunting flavor. If you have the guts, Fong Xian dares to catch up one step further. Even if Fong Xian is slow, she can sense this hunting posture. At this time, she'd better stop provoking Huami. Otherwise the outcome will be ugly. So Fong Xian stomped her feet and stopped where she was. After Huami turned around and got on the truck and drove away, Fong Xian, who was left there, suddenly had a ferocious look in her tearful eyes. She looked at the truck driving away unwillingly, took out her cell phone, and found Qin Ziren's number. She tried to make her voice as coquettish as possible. Brother Ziren, I just found my sister, but she was very fierce and said she would never forgive you. She may not want to see you now. And I don't know where she got this huge truck from. It doesn't look like it belongs to her. Did she make some bad friends outside? Brother Ziren, I'm so worried about my sister. Fong Xian was hinting to Qin Ziren that Huami drove a large truck, and that such large trucks were usually driven by men. So Huami might have met a strange man outside, and she was not as good as Qin Ziren imagined. But Qin Ziren didn't hear the hint in Fong Xian's words. He even completely ignored the fact that Huami was driving a large truck. Qin Ziren was silent for a long time on the other end of the phone, and then he said in great pain, Is she in the makeshift emergency center? I'll come find her now. After a pause, he seemed to have made up his mind. Fong Xian, thank you for your company during this period, but I think we should not continue this in the future. He really likes Huami, and with his whole heart, he wants to wait to marry her. But he and Huami had been together for such a long time, but Huami had never let him touch her. At this time, Fong Xian, who was somewhat similar to Huami, took the initiative to approach him, showed her kindness to him frequently, and made some proactive invitations to him. Qin Ziren was also a hot-blooded man who could not control himself for a moment. And then there was the first time they collided with each other. After that incident, Qin Ziren regretted it very much. But Fong Xian said she didn't mind. She liked him and had secretly had a crush on him for a long time. I ask, which man in the world can resist such temptation? Then there was the second collision, the third collision, and countless times after that. Until he cheated on his wife and Huami discovered the clues. Now Huami wants to break up with Qin Ziren. Of course he didn't want to, so he broke up with Fong Xian for the nth time. You also know, Fong Xian, you are Mi's sister. In fact, I have always only regarded you as my sister. Fong Xian's face became even darker when he heard this. Sister? She was whimpering and crying. Brother Ziren, I really like you. I don't mind being secretive with you all the time, and I have never thought of destroying the relationship between you and my sister. Brother Ziren, please don't ignore me. Woo, obviously, her words were quite useful to the man. Who doesn't want to be everything to a woman? It doesn't matter whether he likes this woman or not. What matters is that this woman is willing to die for him. Fong Xian satisfies Min's vanity to the greatest extent. Sure enough, Qin Ziren softened his heart again. Let me explain everything to me first, and then we can talk about our business. The sound of Qin Ziren taking the car keys came from the phone. He was going to drive to the rescue center to find Huami. At this time, Huami had already been waiting at the gate of the water plant at night. She quickly put Fong Xian and Qin Ziren out of her mind and lay in the driver's seat, carefully studying why she sold 10,000 bottles of mineral water, but there was no money in the Apocalypse supermarket cashier system. The car lights in the rearview mirror lit up, and several cars parked in an orderly manner behind Huami's truck. Huami tilted her head lazily and looked in the large rearview mirror, watching several people walk out of those cars. From their conversation, we learned that they were not from the same group, but came from various places in Xiangqing to buy water. because the price of mineral water near their home has risen to 30 yuan a bottle. A group of people walked past Huami's truck and arrived at the locked gate of the water plant. The guard waved at them from the security room. "It's time to get off work. It's time to get off work. We're already off work." The group of people who came to buy water sighed. But soon, some found picnic mats, and some took out tents from their cars, ready to wait for the door to open overnight. Someone shouted to the water plant security guard, "Uncle, we will sit here and wait for you to open tomorrow. We won't go back if we can't buy water." It was the first time for the water plant security guard to encounter such a situation. He quickly opened the window, stuck his head out and asked, "Why do you have to buy water? We are a water plant. We don't sell retail water. See?" The security guard pointed at Huami's truck and said, "People who come to our factory to buy water all drive trucks like this. They buy tens of thousands of bottles at a time. How much can you buy? You can't wait in front of our factory." He repeatedly stressed that the water from the water plant would not be sold in retail. The people who were prepared to wait all night for the water plant to open, after a while of murmurs, gathered in front of Huami's car door. Someone knocked on Huami's car window. When he saw it was a young girl, he was stunned. Such a young and beautiful girl, driving a truck? Is her driver's license an A license? Soon, they didn't bother to think too much. Among them, a sturdy man started talking to Huami with an anxious look on his face. "Sister, our community is right next to the community that was destroyed by the earthquake. It seems that our underground water pipes were damaged. We don't even have tap water to drink." "Girl," the security guard said that the water from their water plant is not sold in small quantities. "Do you have any water here? We'd like to buy it from you. How about 5 yuan a bottle?" "Okay," Huami answered very straightforwardly. What could she not agree to at 5 yuan a bottle? "How many bottles do you want?" The other party seemed to have never expected Huami to agree so quickly, and the group of people outside the car door fell silent for a moment. It was the burly man who had been chatting with Huami who spoke. "It's not easy for you to come out and sell goods at such a young age. I'll buy 1,000 bottles. He was a kind person and didn't think the disaster would last long. He just wanted to buy a few boxes of mineral water as a backup. But thinking about Huami, it's not easy either. Look how dark it is. Such a young girl is just enduring like this. What's wrong with letting the little girl earn a few thousand more dollars?" Looking at the pure kindness in the man's eyes, Huami couldn't help but smile. She opened the car door and said to the sturdy man, "You have to believe that you will not regret your choice today." After that, she walked to the back of the truck bed and took out 5,000 bottles of mineral water from her level 2 storage while everyone was out of sight. Then he said to the group of men who were approaching, "The payment and goods are settled. I will move the goods as much as you pay me." The man who said he wanted to buy 1,000 bottles of mineral water was the first to come forward to scan the code and pay, and then he loaded boxes of water into the back seat of his car. Because he had traveled across half the city to buy water today, he drove a cargo truck that could carry 1,000 bottles of mineral water. He was busy as the people behind him lined up to scan the code and buy water. Huami, however, was sitting in the back of the truck, stunned because her cash register system had received funds. Current balance, 5,007 yuan. This stupid cash register system requires Huami to deposit the goods into the level 2 warehouse first, and then take them out to sell before she will be paid. Otherwise, no matter how much water Huami sells, the cash register system will not recognize it. "I'll buy 200 bottles. The second man stood outside the truck bed, looking Huami up and down. It seemed as if he was wondering why such a beautiful girl like Huami would do this. Huami rolled her eyes at the second man, stopped cursing the cash register system in her heart, and just collected the money and sold water efficiently. By the time a group of men had finished moving the water they had bought, it was almost dawn. The last man in line stood in front of Huami. He looked back and saw that the car parked behind him had almost left. "Hand over the money," he spoke in a low voice. Huami was playing Candy Crush on her phone. Because the other party's voice was too quiet, she asked without even raising her eyelids, "What? Say that again?" I said, "Give me the money." The man in leather jacket grabbed the truck bed with both hands and was about to pinch Huami's ankle. Such a young and beautiful girl, driving such a big truck in such a remote place. It seems so inappropriate no matter how you look at it. Would you give it to someone who sells it? It's not impossible. Some girls are so unself-respecting that they stop a driver on the road and get into a man's car. So it is possible that Huami was brought to such a remote place by the truck driver. As for where the truck driver went, who cares? Anyway, the night was so long, and I only saw Huami selling water, and I didn't see the truck driver come out. The man in leather jacket also saw it just now. Huami sold a lot of water. A bottle of water was 5 yuan, and she earned at least tens of thousands of yuan. This money made the man in leather jacket interested. If he could rob Huami of her money, he could also take away the remaining water in her truck. Huami sat on a box of mineral water, still without taking her eyes off the Candy Crush saga, and kicked it out directly. Today, she wore a pair of sneakers that were convenient for driving and walking. The kick hit the leather jacket man's outstretched hand, pressing his fingers against the iron truck bed railing. Ah! A scream came from the mouth of the man in leather jacket. It was particularly harsh in the early morning. Huami's eyes were fixed on the screen of the mobile phone in her hand, and her fingers were tapping quickly. The game of Candy Crush isn't over yet. When the security guard heard the noise, he ran out with an electric baton. Huami's ears twitched in the truck bed. When she heard the security guard's footsteps, she loosened her foot that was stepping on the leather jacket man's fingers. "You stinking witch." The man in leather jacket took back his hand. Without even having time to look at his fingers, he just jumped up and rushed onto the truck bed. Just then the security guard ran over and saw this scene. A big man with a ferocious face was pouncing on the young lady who was a big customer of their water plant. "This is too much. This is not a police officer." The security guard uncle can tolerate it, but the aunt can't tolerate it. So she hit the man's back with an electric baton. "Get down here. Do you think this is the place for you to think with your lower body?" Back then, security guards also practiced. The man who was hit by the electric baton held his head and started fighting with the security guard. It turns out that the security guards who had practiced security seemed to be a bit off the mark. Huami finally put down the Candy Crush saga in her hand, jumped off the truck bed, and pulled out an iron rod from the ground nearby. She picked it up casually, and it seemed to be waste construction steel bars. Just as her eyes were fixed on the man in leather jacket, the burly man who had been the first to buy water rushed back in his car. He was not vague. When he heard the security guard yelling, "You rascal," he jumped out of the car, ran to Huami and asked, "Girl, what's going on? Is this guy bullying you?" Huami nodded without hesitation. The burly man turned around, raised his fist, and beat the man in leather jacket together with the security guard. Seeing this, the man in the leather jacket jumped into the car and ran away, chased by the security guard and the burly, kind-hearted man. Huami casually threw the iron rod he picked up into the warehouse. The security guard was so angry that he took out his phone and called the police. "Don't be afraid, pretty girl. The police will be here soon and will definitely catch the gangster for you." Another sturdy, kind-hearted man who had returned rolled up his sleeves and said angrily, "Luckily, I came back to buy water." In fact, Huami was not afraid at all. She nodded seriously and was sincerely grateful to the security guard and the strong and kind man for their help. "I really hope that people like this can remain as upright and kind as they are today, even in the desperate survival environment of the end times." She looked at the kind and muscular man again. "Didn't you just buy 1,000 bottles of water? Why do you want more water?" Jing looked embarrassed. "Hey, I just drove back and my wife complained in the family group that I bought so much water. Who knew that every relative in our family group asked my family to give them some water? Do you think this water is enough?" "It's definitely not enough." Huami shook her head. If earthquakes continued to come, how could 1,000 bottles of water be enough? Moreover, she saw this strong and kind man, who seemed to have a particularly good heart. He actually gave his water to his relatives and ran back to buy water. Huami couldn't help but look at Jing worriedly. After thinking about it, she left him the address of a supermarket. "I still have enough water here for the time being. If you are short of water, you can come to this place to find me. No phone or anything." Jing scratched his head. If Huami could leave a phone number, it would be convenient for him to contact her. Huami laughed. "You should remember the address." Because she was not sure. If the earthquake continued like this, the signal base station would be destroyed and the mobile phone would lose signal. So everyone needs to adapt to life without mobile phones in advance. Jing thought that Huami didn't want to have any in-depth contact with him and didn't even send him a message. He didn't take it to heart. After all, it was normal for the girl to be a little vigilant. So he bought 3,000 bottles of mineral water from Huami at one time. Considering that there is so much water, even if more family members and relatives come, they should be able to hold out until the water price returns to normal. After Jing dragged the water away, Huami and the security guard waited for the police to arrive. But the police didn't come all morning. Even after all 30,000 bottles of freshly made mineral water were loaded onto the truck, the police still hadn't seen any sign of him. The security guard made a few phone calls to inquire about the reason, then frowned at Huami. Beauty, there was another earthquake, and the police were pulled to maintain order. I guess they may not be able to come to our place today. 3 more residential communities collapsed in Chongqing. Rescue teams throughout Chongqing were busy as Hades. The rescue team in this city was not enough, so they had even started recruiting survivors from the civilian population. Everyone was working hard to dig people out from the collapsed ruins. The garrisons outside the city and the police inside the city all went out to help rescue people. No one dealt with Huami's minor attempted case. It's a mess, and it's becoming increasingly chaotic. Huami said to the security guard expressionlessly, I see that your water plant is located in Chongqing New District, and the location is quite remote. You can bring your family members over to live here during this period. It will be closer to the water plant. As soon as she finished speaking, she received a call from Gong Yi. Just now, Gong Yi was rescuing people in the suburbs. Before he finished rescuing all the survivors in the self-built house, he suddenly felt the ground shaking. He immediately knew that the shaking had started again, so he immediately called Huami. When the call was connected, the first thing Gong Yi said was, How much mineral water do you have? The rescue team wants it all. In the whole Chongqing, Huami is the only one that has mineral water bottles, so the director of the water plant can only sell mineral water to Huami first. Gong Yi didn't know where Huami got the channels to provide so many mineral water bottles, but he had a strong sense of crisis and felt that this natural disaster and man-made disaster might not be stopped for a while. So Gong Yi called Huami directly without notifying his superiors and said he wanted to buy all the water she had. Quite a lot. Huami looked back at the water plant behind her. Her truck was now loaded with 30,000 bottles of mineral water, but she had previously ordered another 100,000 bottles. Okay, take it to the rescue center. I'll send someone to contact you. This time, Gong Yi didn't waste any time talking to Huami. After finishing his business, he hung up the phone. He was very busy and had no time to indulge in romance with Huami. Huami looked at the beeping cell phone and thought that Gong Yi might be the chosen one in the legend of the apocalypse. Most people who can survive and live well in the end of the world have a strong sense of crisis, which makes them buy a lot of supplies when natural disasters and man-made disasters just come. In the end, it was these supplies that supported him until his body mutated, and he became a superpower. Huami didn't waste any time and drove the truck to the temporary rescue center. Although the earthquake destroyed 3 more residential areas and caused chaos in Chongqing, Huami was lucky and did not encounter any roadblocks along the way, and arrived at the rescue center smoothly. There are twice as many survivors here as last time, and there are ghosts howling inside and outside. While waiting idly for Gong Yi's people to arrive to contact her, Huami got into the truck and put the 30,000 bottles of mineral water that had just been loaded into the warehouse. Upgraded my warehouse to level 3, space 3x1. Then ship out of the warehouse. In this way, when the rescue team comes and buys the 30,000 bottles of mineral water from Huami, it will all be counted as Huami's turnover. It was the same lifeguard who received Huami. As soon as he saw Huami getting off the truck, Chao Feng went to meet her with a sad face. Boss is the one who has foresight to order 30,000 bottles of water directly from you. I originally thought we wouldn't be able to use them all, but look at this. There are so many more survivors all of a sudden. He pointed at the survivors wailing around him. Each of them had a bloody head and looked miserable. These were people who had just been dug out of the rubble. And such survivors are still being dug out and sent to rescue centers in an endless stream. Huami was accustomed to such scenes. She delivered the goods, received her sales revenue, and looked at this makeshift rescue center with an expressionless face. So are 30,000 bottles of mineral water enough? That's too naive. water resources will become more and more precious in the end. A bottle of mineral water is simply worth a fortune. After watching Chow Feng leave, Huami returned to the truck and counted the string of zeros in the cash register system, feeling extremely happy. Immediately upgraded the Level 1 factory to a Level 2 factory. Level 2 factory, mineral water bottle, specification 55 milliliters, mineral water bottle, specification 1. 5L, limited production, self-priming filter type anti-particle respirator, specification. Children, X 10,000. She squinted her eyes and looked at this Level 2 factory. She spent 20,000 in turnover to get a function that could produce 1.5L mineral water bottles. Huami didn't know whether to cry or laugh. Well, she is also very optimistic. At least she could only hold small bottles of water before, but now she can hold big bottles to drink. Moreover, a limited number of 10,000 self-priming filter-type anti-particulate respirators can be produced. Although they are for children, Huami immediately clicked on the screen without hesitation and produced the 10,000 children's sized self-priming filter-type anti-particulate respirators first. What she found strange was that the green bar above the factory icon, which had become full after the upgrade, gradually decreased during the production of the self-priming filter-type anti-particulate respirator. What on earth is this? Huami couldn't figure it out and thought it was a bit like the health bar in the game. But aren't all health bars red? The health bar of a Level 2 factory is green. If it is the health bar, how to restore it? This strange apocalypse supermarket doesn't even have an instruction manual or something. Isn't there a manual for her to take a look at first? She hesitated, but still drove around outside before delivering 100,550 milliliters empty mineral water bottles to the water plant in several batches. After doing all this, Huami collapsed in the driver's seat exhausted. At this time, she should go back to her supermarket. After all, she had been out for several days and hadn't been back to her Lotus Shengxing supermarket for several days. How nice it would be if she could go back to her supermarket instantly at this moment. She was really tired and didn't want to run around. As soon as this thought came to her mind, Huami felt the surrounding scenery change, and she sat down behind the cashier counter of Lianhua Shengxing supermarket. It turned out that this supermarket also had a one-click instant reply function. This made Huami very happy. Then she could go anywhere from now on, right? Isn't it just like Doraemon's portal? With this in mind, Huami wanted to go back to the rescue center and put her truck back into the Level 3 storage. Sadly, she couldn't go back. What's going on? She wants her big truck. Huami looked around her small supermarket, which stood alone in a pile of ruins, surrounded by all sorts of things. This area had obviously been searched by the rescue team. There were no survivors underground, and all the survivors had been transferred to a temporary rescue center. But the city clearance team did not come, and the reconstruction plan is not on the agenda now. So this place will probably remain deserted like this forever. At this time, Huami received another call. Hello, this is the boss of Shangqing Post. Because your nearest express delivery station has collapsed in the Shangqing earthquake, do you want your express to be returned or delivered nearby? The strong and respectable couriers are still delivering parcels regardless of rain or shine, even at this time. Huami said, don't go back. Put it in the nearest place. Okay, then we'll put it at the courier station closest to you. You can pick it up yourself, or you can wait until the earthquake is over and have our postmaster deliver it to your door again. Shangqing postmaster, we'll get the job done. Thank you very much, Mr. Postmaster. After hanging up the phone, Huami immediately went online and checked that the instant noodles she bought on Singles Day had been delivered to a courier station outside Shangqing. She needed a big truck in every sense of the word. Otherwise, it would be very troublesome to deliver water bottles to the water plant and go out of the city to pick up the express delivery. Huami took a deep breath, took out a pair of running shoes from her luggage and put them on, and was about to hike through the ruins again to the temporary rescue center. A man walked over. Hey, why are you here alone? A man with a backpack looked at Huami, sized her up and down, and spoke to her in a rude tone. Huami stopped where she was, tilted her head, and blinked her fox eyes with a hint of natural ignorance. How many people should be here? The man swallowed and glanced behind Huami. No one inside? I know this, boss. I saw you come out from inside. Did you take something from inside? The man with the backpack kicked open the supermarket door that Huami had just locked, walked in, and turned back to shout at Huami, "Come in, I'll see what you took from my friend's store. He wants to search me." Huami curled her lips and walked into the supermarket generously. "I'm coming in." Just as the man kicked the door and entered the Lotus Xingxing supermarket, a red triangle popped up in front of Huami's eyes. Lotus Xingxing supermarket detected an intrusion and started the intruder scan. One person, carrying a controlled knife. The Lotus Xingxing supermarket's S-level security risk has been upgraded to SS-level security risk. There have been a lot of things going on recently, and Huami just remembered that her supermarket has always been at S-level safety hazard and has no protection at all. One intruder will upgrade the security risk to SS level. This is a security risk that reaches a whole level. As Huami, the fox-like girl, entered the supermarket, the man in the supermarket put down his backpack and walked up to Huami. "There are so few things in this supermarket. Did you steal them? I'm going to search now." That look was even more obscene than the one I met last night by the leather jacket guy. It is not difficult to imagine what he wanted to do to Huami by searching her body. It's such a mess outside. It doesn't matter what you do. Huami stood there without moving. "No, there are only so few things here, because..." She put her hands behind her back, spread out her 5 fingers, and a piece of scrap steel appeared in her palm. Yes, it was the one she picked up outside the water controller. Now it is finally time to realize its value is waste. Just as the man's hand was about to touch her, Huami tilted her head and smiled charmingly. "I bought this supermarket. Now, I am the owner of this store." Every time she said a word, she would hit the man with a half-meter-long iron rod. I fainted. Huami hadn't even warmed up yet. She threw the iron rod in her hand casually, but suddenly disappeared in mid-air and flew directly back to the corner of the Level 3 warehouse. Huami curled her lips and naturally picked up the backpack that the man had left in her supermarket. She turned the bulging backpack over and emptied it onto the ground. There were also quite a few miscellaneous ones from Wei, Xiaomi, O, and V. It turns out he is a man who made money from disasters. Huami naturally put all these things into the warehouse, then took them out and placed a few in the glass cabinet under her cash register. Whether he lives or dies depends on the man's luck. Huami, a beautiful and kind-hearted person, stood at the edge of the bottomless pit, clapped her hands, turned around and looked at her supermarket. This SS-level safety hazard reminder was not over yet. Proved that if there is a first person who can break in, there will be a second one. There was no other way. Huami could only call Xiaofeng and ask him to help keep an eye on her truck to make sure it wasn't stolen by people who profited from disasters. Then she rolled up her sleeves, found a shovel in the ruins, and started digging along the path of her small supermarket. She dug and dug. When she was hungry, she went back to the supermarket to find snacks. When she was tired, she went to the second floor of the supermarket to sleep. This supermarket was originally full of goods. Although the quantity was not large, there were goods from all walks of life. There were also several low-quality and rough quilts. The supermarket was not big, but Huami spent a whole day digging a shallow ditch next to the supermarket. She called this small ditch, which just reached above her knees, a trench. In the small trench, she placed a row of thumbtacks, which are called ground spikes, then put some scraps of paper on top of the trench. This is called concealment. Start security scanning. Completion of security and defense works. Defense engineering rating. Shoddy trench. Activate 1 square meter of black soil in the supermarket backyard. Please select a location for the black soil. Immediately afterwards, small red and green squares appeared in front of Huami's eyes. Wherever her eyes saw piles of rubble, small red squares appeared, and wherever her eyes saw a slightly flatter area, small green squares appeared. Meaning, the red ones cannot be chosen, but the green ones can be chosen. But the green ones are so far away from Huami's supermarket. If she wants to urinate on the black soil to fertilize it at night, she has to run dozens of meters. Unless she takes action now and clears out a square meter of flatland near the supermarket. Huami felt like she didn't want to move even a finger. She finally decided to place the 1 square meter of black soil 20 meters away from the supermarket. I don't know what is in this black soil. As soon as this thought came to her mind, she stood on the black soil. Huami. She looked back blankly at the supermarket 20 meters behind her. So she couldn't teleport away from the supermarket before. Was it because there was no black soil in her poems and the distance? Huami felt a little hungry, which was rare. She has never had a big appetite, but she had just eaten some snacks and now she was feeling hungry again. It was like this for both meals. Probably because I did some physical work, so I got hungry very quickly. Huami didn't care and took out a piece of bread from the level 3 storage to eat. As soon as she took a bite, the square meter of black soil under her feet began to shake. As if she had a premonition, Huami turned her head and saw thick smoke rising from the direction of the airport in the suburbs. There was another earthquake, and this time it seemed to have affected the airport. Huami was still looking at the thick smoke in the sky when her cell phone rang. It was the director of the water production plant, Xiaohua. We have already produced your 100,000 bottles of mineral water. How many more bottles can you get? The situation here is very serious. All sectors of society need to buy water. The name Xiaohua. There was no time to waste. So Huami hurriedly said, I'm coming. She threw a handful of straw seeds onto the black soil and ran to the makeshift rescue center while stuffing bread into her mouth. She didn't have time to think about what would happen after the straw seeds were sown. She just wanted to quickly get her truck. Huami walked out of the ruins smoothly and found a fully charged flatbed truck on the road. It was 90% new. Great. She rode the flatbed truck all the way to the temporary rescue center to get a large truck. The water plant has already produced 100,000 bottles of mineral water, and the factory manager is now starting to accept orders from the society. He hadn't even put out any advertising yet, but orders were already pouring into his office like snowflakes. But the water plant didn't have enough bottles to start production. Now a large number of ordinary people who come to buy water have gathered outside the factory. Some drive cars, and some ride electric donkeys, blocking the only remaining water plant in Changchun. As a last resort, the factory manager could only wait for Huami to arrive, open the back door of the water plant, and take the employees of the water plant to unload the goods at the back door. The empty bottles were unloaded and mineral water bottles filled with purified water were loaded onto the truck. It was definitely impossible to haul 100,000 bottles at a time. Huami would pack tens of thousands of bottles and put them into the warehouse once, then go to the temporary rescue center and sell them to Chow Foam. After several attempts, finally, all 100,000 bottles of water were sold, and the Level 3 warehouse was successfully upgraded to Level 4 warehouse. Regarding this strange apocalyptic supermarket feature, Huami feels that the thing that makes her least worried is the upgradable warehouse. As long as she stocks enough things, her storage can be upgraded infinitely. However, this thought did not make her feel happy for long. When Huami was desperately producing mineral water bottles and preparing to upgrade the warehouse to Level 5, the panel reminded her. Due to the incomplete overall supporting facilities, the warehouse cannot be upgraded to Level 5. What the Hades is supporting facilities? Huami squatted beside her truck, scratching her hair and thinking for a long time. Is it that the storage has been upgraded to Level 4, but her black soil is only 1 square meter? This is indeed a big gap. Elder sister. Outside the entrance of the temporary rescue center, Fong Xian found Huami again. Huami was still squatting beside the tire, scratching her hair. When she looked up, she saw Fong Xian hurriedly walking towards her. There were guards with guns standing on both sides of the entrance. Seeing Fong Xian's happy face, Huami stood up with a stern face and turned to leave. Fong Xian shouted from behind, Sister, I just saw Brother Xiren. He has been looking for you here for several days. Huami in front of her paused. A hint of joy flashed in Fong Xian's eyes. Yes, as soon as Huami heard the name Qin Xiren, she would definitely stop. Huami's cold behavior towards her these days was very abnormal, which made Fong Xian feel a little panicked. It was as if Huami had lost her control. How could this be possible? Huami had to give her food, drink, and money to buy a house. How could she lose control now? At the critical moment, Qin Xiren had to be brought in to make Huami obey. Fong Xian walked forward, her face full of worry. Sister, I know there are some misunderstandings between you and Brother Xiren, but your relationship is so good. Wouldn't it be better if you just talk it out? The most important thing is, sister, your recent condition is very worrying. You even ignored me. Sister, I am your most beloved and dearest sister. After hearing Fong Xian's last words, Huami's body trembled slightly. Fong Xian, who was standing behind Huami, thought she was crying. Yes, Huami has been acting so abnormal recently, even being aggressive towards her. It must be because Qin Ziren cheated on her, so she is in a bad mood. What a pity. Huami will never know that the person Qin Ziren cheated with is actually Fong Xian. When Fong Xian thought of this, he felt a sense of victory as if he had defeated Huami. She took 2 steps forward proudly like a champion and acted like a true confidant sister. Sister, think about it from another angle. Which man in this world doesn't cheat? Even if Brother Ziren has a woman outside, his heart is still with you. Sister, please don't be depressed like this, okay? Don't cry. No, I'm laughing. Huami turned her head around with an expression that she couldn't suppress. Her body was shaking slightly because she couldn't hold back her laughter. Fong Xian was shocked, sister, you? I just think you're funny. Huami couldn't help but smile wider and looked at Fong Xian with a pair of shiny fox eyes. Why did you do this? You slept with a man like this, and Qin Ziren kept saying, oh, I just treat you as a sister. When he was with Qin Ziren before, he always treated Fong Xian as his sister. This was nothing new. So after knowing that Qin Ziren had cheated, Huami never doubted Fong Xian. As a result, the whole world knew that Qin Ziren and Fong Xian were having an affair behind her back, except her. The soft and innocent expression on Fong Xian's face suddenly turned ugly. She opened her mouth and said excitedly, Sister, what are you talking about? What do you mean? What is the relationship between me and Brother Ziren? The reason why I am close to Brother Ziren is because you are my sister and he is your boyfriend. Huami slightly moved her face to avoid Fong Xian's saliva spraying on her face. After Fong Xian finished speaking, Huami said slowly, Look at this, your relationship with him cannot even be exposed. Aren't you cheap? You are a good girl, not bad-looking. Why do you like to find men in garbage dumps? As soon as these words came out, Huami was stunned for a moment, and Gong Yi's words suddenly rang in her ears. Don't look for men in the garbage dump anymore. She didn't. She has changed her ways and no longer looks for men in the garbage dump. Huami retorted in her heart, cheered herself up, focused her attention again, and looked at Fong Xian. Fong Xian, you are just ruining yourself. I'm very busy right now. It doesn't matter what happens between you and Qin Ziren. It has nothing to do with me. She turned around to leave, but Fong Xian grabbed her arm. Stop, sister. Please explain yourself clearly. The next second, Huami grabbed Fong Xian's wrist, pulled her body, and slammed Fong Xian against the truck door. There was a loud bang, and the noise was so loud that the garrisons around looked over. Huami noticed the guard's caution. She smiled at Fong Xian and helped her up. Why are you so careless? What are you in such a hurry for? Look, you fell down. Fong Xian hugged herself with a look of grievance. She didn't know how Huami threw her against the car door. She didn't even see how Huami moved. Many people didn't see it clearly. In order to avoid attracting the attention of the garrison, Huami smiled and adjusted the collar of Fong Xian's pink coat, turned around, got in the car, and drove away. Fong Xian was left standing there, with half of her body smashed against the car door, in excruciating pain. Qin Ziren's voice suddenly rang out from behind her. Xin, was it a me who just left? Fong Xian's face was filled with resentment, but suddenly she became weak and innocent. She hugged her arms and turned around, tears streaming down her face. Brother Ziren, sister hit me. Woo. Qin Ziren didn't see what happened. He had been looking for Huami in the rescue center for several days, and only saw Huami's back today. At that moment, he did not care whether Fong Xian was in pain or not. He just complained, Didn't I tell you to call me as soon as you find her? You know she's mad at me now. Brother Ziren, I'm in pain. Ami has blocked my phone number and removed my WeChat from her friend list. Where do you think I can find her now? Qin Ziren didn't care whether Fong Xian was in pain or not. He was just angry that Fong Xian didn't inform him. She should have called Huami and told him where Huami was the first thing she did when she saw her. Fong Xian watched Qin Ziren cry. But my sister beat me, Brother Ziren, and she already knows about the two of us. You told her? Qin Ziren's face suddenly changed, and he looked at Fong Xian with extremely annoyed eyes. Fong Xian would definitely not admit this. She hurriedly shook her head, and the tears on her face flew away. Of course not, Brother Xiren. How could I tell her this? I don't know who told her, but she just said that she already knew it, and she even beat me. The point is, Huami actually hit her. Qin Xiren then looked at the arm that Fong Xian was hugging, but he did not go forward to comfort her. He just said to Fong Xian in a commanding tone, "Next time you see her, deny everything we did. She has no evidence, so maybe she's just trying to trick you." He and Fong Xian had had affairs many times before, and they had kept it a secret in the past. How come Huami suddenly found out about it now? Qin Xiren quickly filtered out the only few people who knew the truth in his mind, but none of them were the kind to gossip. Fong Xian herself couldn't say it either. After all, she was a graduate of a vocational school and could only live a comfortable life thanks to Huami. That's right, Fong Xian never studied hard since she was young. She relied on Huami to give her special tutoring all the way, and she was admitted to a vocational high school. Finally, she found a sales job. Huami is as outstanding as Qin Xiren. They both graduated from prestigious universities and received very good offers right after graduation. In the future, as long as Qin Xiren marries Huami, he will have a very good future. At least it's much easier than marrying Fong Xian. So Qin Xiren knew from the beginning that the person who was most suitable for him, the person he loved the most, was Huami, and it could not be Fong Xian. Fong Xian was not convinced in her heart, but when she looked at Qin Xiren, she nodded obediently. Brother Xiren, I will be obedient next time and call you the first time I see my sister. Don't be angry, Fong Xian is very good at coaxing this man. She just endured the pain, stretched out her little finger, secretly hooked Qin Xiren's little finger, and pulled it towards her lower abdomen. Qin Xiren pursed his lips and looked over. Fong Xian's eyes were filled with tears. She had just cried and her nose was red. It looked so pitiful. For a moment, the hot-blooded Qin Xiren hesitated. He didn't say anything, and of course he didn't scold Fong Xian again. Instead, he took Fong Xian to his car and drove to a remote place. Huami knew nothing about what was going on between the two. She drove straight to the water plant, and as soon as she arrived at the back door, she saw a familiar face. It's a truck driver. He was talking to the mineral water seller. Huami felt embarrassed for a moment. She thought she would never see this truck driver again, but she didn't expect that he could actually find the water plant. After all, the car belongs to someone else. Since the driver has come, she has no choice but to return it to him. So Huami jumped out of the car, said hello to the driver, and handed him a very generous red envelope. "I'm sorry, master. I saw that you didn't contact me these days, so I drove your car for a few days. Here's the gas money for you." "It's okay. It's okay. I know everything. You were in a hurry to deliver the goods, and I was just wanting to thank you." Instead of getting angry, the truck driver accepted Huami's red envelope with gratitude and started talking about what had happened recently. It turned out that his house was collapsed by the earthquake, and everyone in the house was trapped in the rubble. Fortunately, no one was injured, but because they were buried quite deep, they could not get out for the time being. So the whole family, young and old, lived under the ruins for several days, relying on the 2 boxes of instant noodles that Huami gave him. Until the whole family was dug out by the rescue team, they were all fine. This instant noodle is really good. It doesn't need to be boiled in water. You can eat it directly by tearing open the package. So as soon as he was dug out, the truck driver Afu found his employer, the supermarket supplier, and wanted to buy more instant noodles. Yes, when he came out of the ruins, he didn't look for his truck first, but bought some instant noodles to stockpile. While I was talking to the supplier, Huami came in her big truck. He was extremely grateful to Huami. To be honest, if it weren't for Huami, his whole family would have starved to death long ago. If he hadn't starved to death, his condition wouldn't be this good after being dug out. However, Huami felt a little guilty, as she had originally intended to steal Afu's truck. After all, she has lived in the apocalypse for so many years, and some of her ideas have become deeply rooted, so it's really no wonder she is like that. In the end times, whoever picks up something on the street owns it. If 2 people like an item at the same time, they will fight over it. Whoever wins the grab gets it. So Huami never thought there was anything wrong with what she did. Facing Ah Fu's sincere thanks, Huami smiled. So what are you going to do after you buy the instant noodles? Where are you going? Continue delivering goods to the supermarket? Ah Fu was stunned. He scratched his almost bald scalp. At that time, Shangqing was a little chaotic. He had just come out of the ruins. His family was still in shock and temporarily lived in a rescue center with nowhere to go. And now, the delivery job is not very stable, so I can only smile bitterly. I haven't figured out what to do next. I'll see if my boss gives me any work. Ah Fu's truck is too big, and it is not as light as a small van in the city. If there is an earthquake and he is stuck in the middle of the road, his truck will not even be able to turn around. So he just talked about this issue with the supplier. The supplier's statement was more tactful. They prefer to use small vans with good passability to deliver goods. Naturally, Ah Fu had no food to eat. At this time, Huami extended her olive branch. She was smiling like a clever little fox. Uncle, it's like this. You know I have always had a supply channel for mineral water bottles. If you can help me deliver the goods, or sell or rent your truck to me, that's fine. Ah Fu smiled immediately after hearing this. Then you're not worried that my truck is too big, and it might be difficult to turn around if I run into an obstacle on the road? It's okay. If you encounter any obstacles, just tell me. I have acquaintances in the Shangqing obstacle removal team. Huami patted her chest and dragged Gongyi out to prove that she really had someone above her. Does the rescue team leader Gongyi know him? He's an old acquaintance of mine. We are very familiar with each other. Captain Gong. Captain Gong is a celebrity. He used to appear on TV a lot. I heard that he was seconded to the rescue team from the special garrison. I guess he will be promoted when he returns to the garrison after the earthquake is over. With the supplier joining in at the right time, it was no wonder that he felt that Huami could get so many mineral water bottles and could buy hundreds of thousands of bottles of mineral water at one time. It turned out that Captain Gong was standing behind him. Suppliers couldn't help but look at Huami with new eyes, and their attitude became much friendlier and more respectful. Huami smiled and wisely did not continue the discussion on this topic. Her attitude became very secretive in the eyes of others. Looking at her again, she is so young and beautiful, and Captain Gong is also a handsome, young and promising man. It is not difficult to imagine the relationship between these two people. Because Gongyi's name was mentioned, the people were easier to talk to. Soon, Huami delivered the empty mineral water bottles and ordered another 100,000 bottles of mineral water from the water plant. Because she has a source of mineral water bottles, the water plant must give her water priority. Only after her water is finished can others get their turn. But this time Huami didn't have to wait for the water to be made. She could just leave and let Ah Fu deliver the water to her. After giving Ah Fu a few more instructions, Huami rode her flatbed cart and left the water plant. She was not in a hurry to go back to the supermarket. After all, to go back and come out again, she would have to walk through the ruins. Huami decided to go out of town to the express delivery station to pick up a delivery of instant noodles. Because the current logistics network is still usable, the hardworking couriers will not leave their jobs unless they can no longer hold on. After all, logistics can guarantee the most basic people's livelihood needs. So on the way to pick up the express, Huami placed an order online for another 10,000 portable gas cylinders and 100 portable gas stoves. After calculating the remaining money and deducting the money to be paid to the water plant, Huami bought another 1,000 sets of outdoor cookware and 1,000 sets of folding serrated knives in 3 sizes: large, medium, and small. Only one address was filled in: Shangqing Express Station. Please be sure to call to notify us. If the call is not connected, please drop it off at the nearest place and I will pick it up myself. The range is quite wide. When there is no signal, the couriers of the Great Postal Boss will assume that as long as it is a courier station in Shangqing, it will be fine. At that time, they will not call back the express deliveries to Huami. The instant noodles that Huami ordered online were delivered to the courier station in the nearest market town when she left the city. But this closest distance is a bit mysterious. It took Huami more than an hour to get there on a flatbed cart. I don't know why, maybe because I was too tired recently, Huami felt particularly hungry today. Huami, who usually has good physical strength, was almost starving when she arrived at the market town. This market town has not been affected by the earthquake yet, and everything seems calm, although people are talking about the frequent earthquakes in Changchun recently. Huami didn't have time to pick up the express, so she just found a noodle shop and ordered 2 bowls of noodles. 2 bowls. The bowls were bigger than her face. After eating, Huami finally came to her senses. What a stomach! She had never eaten so much in one meal. Girl, you really can eat. The noodle shop owner came to collect the bowls and was surprised to see Huami finish 2 large bowls of food without leaving any soup. I really can't tell. This girl looks so slender and fragile, but she has such a big appetite. Huami paused, turned around, looked at the proprietress and asked with a smile, "Excuse me, where can I buy a second-hand electric flatbed truck?" Money is hard to spend, and Huami didn't have much money left in total, but fortunately an electric flatbed truck is not expensive. The noodle shop owner has been doing business in this small market town for decades. As someone who welcomes and sees off customers, she knows everything about who has what to sell. Soon, she enthusiastically called an old man for Huami. When the old man came, he drove an electric flatbed truck that looked old, but very large and solid. He asked for 400 yuan and would not sell it for a penny less. Huami slammed the table. 200, no more. After saying that, she was about to get up and leave. It wasn't that she couldn't afford 400 yuan, but the other party's attitude made Huami unable to help but bargain. Bargaining is a woman's stubbornness engraved in her soul. Finally, the old man called her back, and after some bargaining, the two sides reached a deal at 250 yuan. Yeah, 250. The old man looked at Huami as if he was looking at 250 and transferred the money to him. This electric flatbed truck he had used for more than 10 years had not been bought for a long time, but he finally sold it today. Huami drove her newly purchased second-hand flatbed truck to the express delivery point to pick up her instant noodles. Because the orders were placed from different stores and the quantity was quite large, the instant noodles would not arrive at the courier station all at once. The first batch of more than a dozen boxes of instant noodles just filled up the flatbed truck. Huami dragged a dozen boxes of instant noodles out of the market town and came to a remote place where there could be no surveillance or anyone watching. She turned around, put her hands on the boxes of instant noodles behind her, and put the boxes back into the level 4 storage. She returned to the market town. I bought some cooked food in the market town and packed 200 portions of kimchi and 200 portions of spicy hot pot. Of course, she couldn't have bought all of these from the same store. She's not stupid. Moreover, her level 4 storage has automatic freshness preservation and freezing functions, which is similar to the spaces in novels. When you put hot food in, no matter how long you take it out, it will still be as hot as before you put it in. After preparing all the kimchi and spicy hot pot, it was already dark. Huami put the electric flatbed truck back to her level 4 warehouse, snapped her fingers, and went back to the supermarket to sleep. She maintained her habits very well, but she was not used to walking outside at night unless it was necessary. At night, Huami used a large bucket of mineral water to casually wipe her body, focusing on washing her buttocks, and then lay on the second floor of a small supermarket playing with her mobile phone. Before she knew it, she fell asleep. She woke up again because a message suddenly appeared in front of her tightly closed eyes. Insufficient energy detected. Insufficient detection energy. Insufficient detection energy. Maybe the information was quite important, so 3 prompts popped up to Huami in a row. The lights on the second floor of the supermarket were flickering, and it seemed that the voltage was unstable. Electricity. Huami opened her hazy eyes, and then she remembered that it had been so long since the earthquake, but she had never worried about the electricity usage in her supermarket. It is estimated that the electricity was provided to her by this doomsday supermarket. What should she do now that she is running low on energy? Will there be a power outage? She opened the control panel and checked the level 2 factory. The green health bar on it had completely run out, with a red lightning sign. It really needs to be charged. Huami lowered her head and looked at her phone again. Afu sent her a message saying that the water plant was working at full capacity to produce mineral water. The 100,000 bottles of mineral water that were produced after she left had been produced, but there were too many people who needed water on the market. The water plant planned to sell 50,000 bottles to her first, and sell the rest to people who came to buy water in Changchun. In addition, The water plant will order another 200,000 1.5 L mineral water bottles from her. Huami immediately called the director of the water plant and said, I don't want the remaining 50,000 bottles of mineral water. Does your factory have a large generator set? A large factory like yours should be able to get something like this. There is such a channel, but what about the price? The factory manager said it very vaguely. Anyway, 50,000 bottles of mineral water are definitely not enough to match a large generator set. Moreover, in order to continue operating the generator set in this environment, a large amount of diesel will be needed. The channel must also be legal. The factory manager was very confident that since they had all the necessary documents and strong connections, getting more diesel would not be a problem. Huami smiled immediately. Director, the money issue is easy to deal with. Just get me a generator set, and I'll give you as many mineral water bottles as you want. The two parties negotiated a price that they could both accept. Huami provided mineral water bottles to the water plant, and the plant director provided her with a generator set and also contracted for the diesel needed later. Cooperate with each other for mutual benefit. The factory manager acted quickly. Just when Ah Fu brought a large truckload of mineral water to Huami, he had already sent people to drag the generator set out of the ruins. According to the previous agreement, Ah Fu and the person who delivered the generator set only need to deliver the goods to the front of the ruins where Huami's supermarket is located. Huami will ask the city clearance team to come and repair the road. After the road was repaired, the workers went back to transport mineral water and install generators. This should take a few days. Everyone thinks so. So after the goods were delivered, everyone could relax and do what they needed to do. However, less than half a day later, Huami, holding a bowl of spicy hot pot, called the factory manager and said, I have already moved the generator set and mineral water. Please send someone to install the generator set and tell Ah Fu to pick up the truck. The factory manager said, huh? But didn't understand what was going on. After thinking for a while, he asked in confusion, is the city obstacle removal team so awesome? They just repaired the road? It's not fixed, but I've moved the generator set next to my supermarket. Huami didn't explain too much. It was almost the end of the world, and the world would soon become bizarre. What was the point of her explaining so much? The factory director might not be alive the next day. The factory manager was also confused. A generator set was about the size of a container. Did Huami find an overhead crane to transport such a large and heavy generator set into the ruins? As expected, with the support of the palace team, one has a wide network of contacts. The factory manager did not waste any more time and immediately called the workers to install the generator set for Huami. It takes a lot of time to install such a big thing, so in order to save electricity, Huami packed up the things in the supermarket, leaving water and instant noodles for the workers, and went to the temporary rescue center to charge her phone. The temporary rescue center has electricity and provides survivors with 3 meals a day and 2 snacks, free of charge. Free of charge. So when Huami walked out of the ruins, she kept picking up power banks from the ruins. Whenever she sees a power bank, she picks it up. Everyone must have one of these things now, or even several. So when Huami walked out of the ruins, she probably picked up dozens of various types of power banks. She was extremely happy and felt that she was so smart. With so many power banks, she could worry free about using the power for her mobile phone. In the future, even if her mobile phone has no signal, she can still play the standalone version of Candy Crush. When you think about it this way, it's worth it no matter how tired you are. As a result, when she rode the flatbed cart to the temporary rescue center, she found that stalls had been set up outside the rescue center at some point, and at a glance, she saw all kinds of things for sale. Of course, there are also people selling power banks, all of which are picked up and sold by pound. There are also new power banks for sale, but they are a bit more expensive. However, they are still a lot cheaper than before the earthquake, only about 10 yuan each. So why didn't Huami, who had spent several hours rummaging through the ruins and was exhausted as a dog, spend some money to buy a power bank weighing dozens of kilograms? Huami was so angry that she ran to the stall selling power banks and said in a gruff voice, "Send me a little cheaper. I want all these power banks." The stall owner looked at Huami in surprise. When he saw Huami take out her cell phone to transfer money to him, he hurriedly stood up and quoted a price. Huami cut his offer in half. and the stall owner nodded in agreement without hesitation. After receiving the money, the stall owner pointed to his large stall filled with power banks and said, "This stall is for you. Rich man, please treat me." Then, he casually put on his bag, left his stall, and continued to dig for power banks in the ruins. Looking at the stall owner's hurried back, Kwame felt that she might be a little impulsive. There were so many power banks, and she couldn't just put them into the level 4 storage in front of everyone here. This is the line pulled out from the temporary rescue center. I don't know who was so talented to pull it out. However, Kwame hadn't been charging for a while when someone came over and asked, "Hey, how much is the power bank?" "Not for sale." Kwame replied with 2 words and continued to browse her phone, playing Candy Crush Saga to use up her battery. After a while, someone came over. "How much is your charging pad?" "I said I won't sell it." Kwame was annoyed by the questions, so she took out a self-priming filter-type anti-particulate respirator from her bag, put it at the front of the stall, found a piece of hard paper, and wrote with a marker, "Power banks are not for sale. Children's self-priming filter-type anti-particulate respirator is available for pickup, 25 yuan per piece." Finally, I pasted my own payment QR code and then concentrated on charging and playing with my phone next to the socket. She thought it was finally quiet, but after a while, the survivors came and went, and Kwame received 25 yuan. After a while, she received another 25 yuan. After a while, she received 250 yuan from someone who bought 10 children's self-priming filter-type anti-particulate respirators. Why are children's models so popular? Kwame finally became a little more cheerful. She thought this thing was only used by people who were allergic to pollen. It only cost a few cents each in the drugstore and was completely useless. Do you still have a self-priming, filtering particulate respirator? A mother holding a child hurried to Hwame's stall, anxiously asking, "I heard you sell this here." Hwame glanced at the child in the woman's arms. The child had a pair of innocent big eyes and was holding a yellow psyduck in his arms, looking at her. Her heart softened and she nodded. "Have." After saying that, she reached into the large shoulder bag beside her and pulled out a handful of self-priming filter-type anti-particulate matter respirators. It looks like it was taken out of a big bag, but it was actually taken from level 4 storage. "I'll buy 10. The woman hurriedly took 10 and transferred the money to Hwame. She didn't have time to leave and only put one on the child's face. He looked at Hwame with gratitude again. "Thank you so much. I've been looking for children's edition everywhere, but I can't find any. Look at this messed up world. There's dust everywhere. If this continues, the child will definitely cough." Yeah. It might be even more troublesome then. It's better to take some precautions." Hwame nodded and watched the woman leave with the child in her arms. The child was wearing a self-priming filter-type anti-particulate matter respirator on his face. His little face was resting on his mother's shoulder, next to the yellow psyduck, and still looking at Hwame. Hwame also looked at him. Suddenly, the child smiled at her with his eyes squinted, which was so cute. Although she couldn't see his smile, Hwame's heart was still hit hard. Wow, she also wants to have a cute baby like this. Hwame felt a little bit of desire in her heart, but then she shook her head and threw this unrealistic idea out of her mind. Didn't she know what kind of life she had lived in her previous life? Bringing a little life into this world when there was no more food or ammunition was a very irresponsible idea. Moreover, she had only slept with a man once in her 2 lives, that time when she was drunk and heartbroken, and spent money to buy a man. Hwame had forgotten the whole process. Where can she go to have a baby? Shaking her head, Hwame sat down again and continued to reach into her bag to take out a self-priming filter-type anti-particulate matter respirator. By the way, check the power banks on the stalls one by one. If the battery is full, she will throw the power bank into her bag, which is actually the level 4 storage. If the battery is not fully charged, she will also throw it into the level 4 storage, but store the fully charged power banks and the partially charged power banks in 2 piles. This way, next time you come to the emergency center to use power, you can just take out the power bank and charge it. She took out the self-priming filter-type anti-particulate respirator little by little and collected power banks from the level 4 warehouse little by little. Before I knew it, I had sold out all 10,000 children's self-priming filter-type particulate respirators. There are also parents who come here with their children, attracted by its reputation. Huami waved her hand to indicate that she was out of stock, then turned around and quickly spent 30,000 yuan to upgrade her Level 2 factory to a Level 3 factory. Level 3 factory, mineral water bottle, specification 550 milliliters, mineral water bottle, specification 1.5 L, mineral water bottle, specification 10 L, limited production. Self-priming filter type anti-particle respirator, specification. Children, X20000, self-priming filter type anti-particle respirator, specification. Adult, X10000. Are you planning to let her keep producing mineral water bottles? Why not let her produce self-priming filter type anti-particulate matter respirators? Don't limit her production. Huami decided to take a gamble. Maybe a Level 4 factory could have the capability to produce unlimited quantities of self-priming filter type anti-particulate respirators. So the guy got excited, gritted his teeth, and made impulse purchases, spending another 40,000 yuan to upgrade the Level 3 factory to a Level 4 factory. Level 4 factory, mineral water bottle, specification 550 milliliters, mineral water bottle, specification 1.5 L, mineral water bottle, specification 10 L, mineral water, specification 350 milliliters, limited production. Self-priming filter type anti-particle respirator, specification. Children, X30000. Self-priming filter type anti-particle respirator, specification. Adult, X20000. Ethanol X10000. Why is it another 350 milliliters water bottle? Huami was a little angry and was about to curse, but when she looked carefully, she realized that this 350 milliliters bottle was not a water bottle, it was water. There is water in it. Huami quickly checked the energy bar. She estimated that the energy bar on the Level 4 factory icon, which had been at the bottom, was filled up after the factory was upgraded. Therefore, she just upgraded 2 levels in a row, which was a complete waste of resources. She could have produced some things after reaching Level 3, and then upgraded to a Level 4 factory after the energy bar was empty. Huami couldn't help but sigh when she thought of this. What a waste. It doesn't fit in with her virtue of thriftiness. She stared depressedly at the full green energy bar on the Level 4 factory. Ever since the energy bar reached the bottom, Huami had been feeling a little energy anxious. In this case, only large amounts of mineral water can calm her anxiety. So Huami ordered mineral water, specification 350 milliliters, and prepared to produce tens of thousands of bottles of water in one go. Although it is of small size, Huami doesn't mind it. After these things were produced, Huami's Level 4 factory's energy bar reached the bottom again. Huami, Anxiety X3. She continued to click on Upgrade, wanting to upgrade the Level 4 factory to a Level 5 factory in one go and restore the health bar again. The result was very sad. The familiar prompt came again. Due to the incomplete overall supporting facilities, the factory cannot be upgraded to Level 5. In terms of supporting facilities, it still only has 1 square meter of blackland. Huami, Anxiety X4 at this time. The workers in the supermarket called her and said that after their unremitting efforts, the generator set was almost installed. Because Huami prepared a lot of food and water for them, they returned the favor and took the initiative to help Huami clean up the rubble and debris around the supermarket. So now there is a small piece of vacant land next to Lianhua Shengxing. Great. Huami decided to go back to the supermarket to do construction. She packed up, unplugged all the power banks from the socket, threw them into her bag, and started looking for something to use for defense at the stalls along the way. By the way, I used my mobile phone to ask the agent where the remaining money from the sale of her ancestral home was. It was time to give her the final payment. She has been spending a lot of money recently, and all the money she earned was used to upgrade the factory. The agent was very nice and said there was no earthquake in their area. They said they sympathized with the fact that she was in an earthquake zone. They had already convinced the buyer and transferred another 10 million yuan to Huami's account. Huami held her hot phone in front of a camera booth and asked, "Does your camera work? Can it be placed on a wire fence and exposed to the sun and wind? I'm a professional. In the past, you couldn't buy one without hundreds of thousands of dollars." The stall owner sat cross-legged behind the stall, picked up a large camera, and explained professional things to Huami. After he said a lot of things, "I'll give you 50,000 each now. After I sell these last remaining stocks, I'll leave Xiangqing. To Hades with Xiangqing. A city that is so shocked. 10,000 each. I want them all. Huami bargained for a price as usual, and the stall owner agreed again. Now he just wanted to cash out all his money and leave. These cameras were very professional in the field, and ordinary people could not use them at all. Large companies and enterprises are in chaos now and will not buy goods from him in the short term. So when the stall owners meet someone like Huami who is willing to go all in, they will just sell to him as long as they pay. Huami put these professional cameras into a patterned bed sheet and then exerted force to carry the big package on his shoulders. She continued to search the stalls for materials that could be used for safety protection, and then she cleared out a stall selling kitchen supplies. The reason why this stall owner was in a hurry to sell was similar to the previous one. She had to cash in the money as soon as possible and then leave this unfortunate place, Xiangqing. Huami felt that she could use all these things, so she offered a suitable price and bought them all. A nearby umbrella vendor saw this and thought it was a good opportunity to sell his products, so he quickly extended his transparent lady's umbrella to Huami. Beauty, I'm also in a hurry to leave Xiangqing. Please buy all the umbrellas on my stall. There were at least dozens of umbrellas piled on his stall and several boxes of raincoats, both for men and women. There are also rain hats for heads and rain boots of all sizes for feet. Huami looked up at the cloudless sky. In fact, rain gear could be used. It always rains for a long time before a snowstorm comes. Another big man came over carrying a roll of barbed wire. Beauty, do you want these barbed wires? They're all good stuff. He looked like he was delivering goods to a construction site because Xiangqing had suffered an earthquake and all construction projects were on strike. He had no way to dispose of his barbed wire, and it wasn't needed anywhere else as the bank was still waiting for him to repay the loan, so he could only take it outside the rescue center to sell it. Huami was carrying a big bag on her shoulder. She looked at the people who had gathered around her and said, "Buy. I'll buy them all. Wait for a moment. I'll call my driver over." She immediately made a phone call and asked Afu to drive his empty truck to collect supplies outside the rescue center. Huami wanted all those kitchen supplies, rain gear, and barbed wire. But she couldn't possibly stuff all these things into her level 4 warehouse in front of everyone. So she could only ask Afu to drive the truck over and put the things on the truck first. Afu has been helping Huami transport mineral water and mineral water bottles recently, although he always delivers the truck full of goods to the ruins of Huami's community. Then, according to Huami's request, he parked the truck next to the ruins and could go home from get-off work. After a few hours, or the next day, when Huami called him to pick up the car, the truck full of mineral water would be replaced with full mineral water bottles. But Afu never doubted Huami. He is an honest man. It is not easy to find a job during this earthquake, and he doesn't want to lose this job because of his suspicious nature. So after receiving Huami's call, Afu came quickly. He parked his truck outside the stall area, and the stall owners selling kitchen supplies, rain gear, and barbed wire just put these things in Afu's truck. "Miss Hua, why did you buy so many things?" Afu looked at the huge package of patterned sheets on her shoulders and hurried forward to take it. He was a little confused as to why Huami bought so many useless things. Yes, dozens of bottles of detergent, hundreds of steel wool, dozens of umbrellas, a dozen boxes of raincoats, 40 pairs of rain boots, dozens of rolls of disposable kitchen rags, and so on. These are nothing. There are also bundles of barbed wire. What is Miss Hua going to do? He couldn't help but look at Huami with worry. "Miss Hua, we should actually buy more food and water now. My wife and children like to visit the stalls outside the makeshift rescue center recently. I heard that all the food and water at these stalls are increasing in price, while the rest of the items are decreasing in price. This is a very scary thing, and it silently reveals a message. When the price of something increases in the market, it means that it is in short supply. In other words, the food and water in Xiangqing are quietly decreasing. So if you have money, you should stock up on food and water at times like this." Afu told Huami this simple truth. Huami spread her hands. It's not that Huami doesn't want to stock up on food. The key is that there is no need for Huami to buy the expensive food and water at these stalls. Moreover, all the food and water, no matter how high the price was, were sold out as soon as they came out. Among the express parcels sent from other places to Xiangqing, 9.5 out of 10 are food and water. A steady supply of food and water is pouring into Xiangqing, but there is no sign of sufficient food and water on the market. What does it mean? It means everyone is stockpiling food and water. In this case, if you want to find cheap food and water in such a place, you have to be extremely lucky. When Ah Fu heard Huami say this, he could only shake his head helplessly. Anyway, Huami has Gong Yi as his backer, so he probably won't be short of food. As a worker for others, he doesn't need to worry about this for his boss. Looking into the truck bed, the barbed wire takes up the most space. The big man selling barbed wire had a lot of barbed wire in his hands. After all, he was delivering goods to the construction site. After he loaded all his goods onto Ah Fu's truck, the big man was a little worried whether he had sold too much to Huami. After all, Huami looks like a young girl who is not very worldly wise. What can she do with so many barbed wires? Huami came over and handed the money to him. If you still have barbed wire, you can pull it to the rescue center. I'll come here every few days. I'll take as much as you have. I just want to use it to make a fence. After saying that, she got into the car and asked Ah Fu to drive her back to the ruins. However, he did not notice that just in the distance of the truck, Fong Xian was standing there, holding a mobile phone in her hand, taking pictures. She took pictures of Huami talking to Ah Fu and Huami getting on Ah Fu's truck. After the truck left, Fong Xian sent the photos in her phone to Qin Ziren and sent him a text message. Fong Xian, Brother Ziren, come quickly, I found my sister. If you don't come, my sister will leave. Qin Ziren on the other end did not reply to the text message for a long time. Fong Xian looked at the line of words input in progress, written by Qin Ziren on the top of the W message dialog box with satisfaction. She didn't even have to think about how shocked and sad Qin Ziren, who loved Huami so much, must have been when he saw Huami getting into an old man's truck. Qin Ziren was upset, so naturally he wouldn't give Huami an easy time. He would constantly pick quarrels with Huami and try to control her. And Fong Xian just likes to see Huami having a hard time. She waited for a while, and Qin Ziren's text messages were deleted and reduced, and only a few words were sent. Qin Ziren, where are you? Fong Xian quickly told Qin Ziren the location of the stall area. Of course, when Qin Ziren came to find Huami, the truck was no longer there. Huami also disappeared. Fong Xian stretched out her finger in annoyance and hooked the corner of Qin Ziren's clothes, looking aggrieved. Brother Ziren, I'm sorry. Last time, my sister attacked me in order to avoid me. I didn't dare to stop her this time. As she spoke, tears welled up in Fong Xian's eyes. She raised 3 fingers. I swear, I really sent you a message the first time I saw my sister. Brother Ziren, sister, my sister has changed a lot. Is she really in love with that truck driver? I guess so. Fong Xinka had never seen the man driving the truck before. If Huami wasn't hooking up with the truck driver, she was either in some relationship with that man. Fong Xian was willing to bet her toes. What nonsense are you talking about? Qin Ziren's face was furious, and he yelled at Fong Xian. How could Ami fall for a man like that? He saw the old man in the photo, who was probably around 50 years old, not dressed like a rich man, and was driving a large truck. This is a job that only people living at the bottom of society would do. Huami is beautiful and capable. Even if she wants to find a man to anger Qin Ziren, she will definitely find someone who looks better than Qin Ziren. How could she possibly find a truck driver? He was already good enough, and it was impossible for Huami to meet another man who was better than him. Qin Ziren's roar successfully made Fong Xian cry. She lowered her head and cried silently, like a submissive little wife, not daring to refute Qin Ziren's words. In fact, Fong Xian did not agree with Qin Ziren's words. She felt that Huami was just like herself and would do anything to make someone angry. As for whether Huami will find a truck driver as her lover, that's not necessarily the case. Truck drivers actually earn a lot, much more than a salesperson like her with not very good performance. If this truck driver can give Fong Xian several thousand yuan every month, Fong Xian doesn't mind finding a truck driver as a financial sponsor. Using this line of thinking, if the money is given to Huami, she will definitely do it. Qin Ziren looked at Fong Xian's innocent appearance, thinking that she loved him to the point that she couldn't live without him. Qin Ziren's tone softened. You continue to wait here, me. I'll go back to take care of work first. Yes, Qin Ziren is of course an employed person, and he works for a very good company and is currently in the probation period. Although Xiangqing has experienced frequent earthquakes, the entire city has not been destroyed. Large areas of the city have not collapsed. For society to function at the most basic level, there must be people in necessary positions to promote the functioning of society. Qin Ziren's job is to purchase supplies for the City Management Bureau. This is when he is busiest. The task of finding Huami can only be pushed to Fang Xian. Fang Xian loves him to death and would never do anything evil. Fang Xian nodded as expected, looking very well behaved. But when Qin Ziren was about to leave, Fang Xian reached out and grabbed the corner of Qin Ziren's clothes. She looked very embarrassed, and her feet, wearing silver-white fine sandalwood high-heeled shoes, moved slowly on the ground. Brother Ziren, I haven't been to work these days because I've been looking for my sister. My boss is very angry, and the economy is not so good right now. We are in sales and don't have much business. Her salary was not high to begin with, and after graduating from vocational high school, she found a job selling real estate. She would punch in the morning and make an excuse to go out and play in the afternoon. Whenever she ran out of money, she would ask Huami for it. Of course, Qin Ziren is also very generous. Since Huami started dating Qin Ziren, Fang Xian has also received a lot of benefits from Qin Ziren. After sleeping with Qin Ziren, she received even more material benefits. When Qin Ziren saw Fang Xian like this, he immediately understood her difficulties. He expressed his understanding, took out his mobile phone, and directly transferred 30,000 yuan to Fang Xian. You can use these first. The order outside is a bit chaotic right now. I will give you money after you find your sister. You don't have to go out to work in the future. Anyway, you don't make much money in that job. Thank you, Brother Ziren. Brother Ziren, you are the best to me. Fang Xian was so happy that she felt like flying. This was exactly what she wanted. Her ideal situation was that Qin Ziren and Huami both gave her money to spend and supported her. It would be best if Huami gave her money to spend, but was abandoned by Qin Ziren and was mentally tortured and hurt by Qin Ziren. Fang Xian felt that she had achieved her goal in this regard. After all, she understood Huami's feelings for Qin Ziren. Huami loves Qin Ziren to death. Even though Qin Ziren betrayed Huami, Huami was angry and wanted to break up with Qin Ziren, but Huami just couldn't leave Qin Ziren. It is natural for men to cheat. Which man in the world doesn't have some unfaithful thoughts? In the end, there is a high probability that Huami and Qin Ziren will get back together. Of course, Fang Xian didn't want to see such an ending. She wanted to monopolize Huami's man every day, live a carefree life of shopping, and then watch how Huami suffered. Now the first step of the plan has been successful. Qin Ziren asked her to resign and gave her money to spend. The next step is to prevent Huami and Qin Ziren from meeting no matter what. Otherwise, when the two of them met, Huami was coaxed back by Qin Ziren with a few words, and then the prince and princess in the fairy tale flew away together. What should Fang Xian do? Having made up her mind, Fang Xian took the tens of thousands of yuan Qin Ziren gave her and waited attentively at the temporary rescue center to wait for Huami to appear again. Of course, it is so boring to stay with one person all day long. With Fang Xian's personality, she also likes to shop. But what she bought were lipsticks, nail polishes, high heels, jewelry, and beautiful dresses. Anyway, these things are very cheap now, and Fang Xian couldn't hold back, so she spent all the 30,000 yuan that Qin Ziren gave her. It doesn't matter. Fang Xian now has a big sponsor like Qin Ziren, and this temporary rescue center also provides 3 meals a day and snacks. Anyway, she won't starve to death. When the money is all spent, I can just ask Brother Ziren for more. As for Huami, she didn't care about Fang Xian and Qin Ziren at all. She asked Ah Fu to park the truck in front of the ruins and sent Ah Fu to rest. She went into the truck bed and put all the things in the truck bed into the level 4 storage with just a thought. Then fill the truck with empty mineral water bottles. Huami, who didn't want to move at all, returned to her supermarket in an instant, dragged out the barbed wire from the level 4 warehouse, and began to provide security protection for her Lotus Shengxing supermarket. But before she could even untie a roll of barbed wire, Huami was hungry. She touched her starving stomach and remembered the 2 loaves of bread she had just eaten not long ago. What happened? Could it be that her ability to stimulate plant growth had become the ability of this apocalyptic supermarket, and as a result, her appetite had also changed? If she continued to eat like this, would she become a 250-pound fat person? Huami squatted down, holding her belly, and sat on the wire mesh. She took out a big bowl of hot spicy hot pot from the level 4 warehouse and ate it while checking the news on her phone. There were also news reports of earthquakes in some local cities, but the damage was not serious. They were all small earthquakes, not as frequent and damaging as the earthquake in Chongqing. It seems that Chongqing is in a state of shock, but this is also good. At least global logistics is still smooth. Although the airport in Chongqing was collapsed by the earthquake, the boss of Chongqing Post Office specially held a press conference to ensure that the Guanghuan Shopping Festival of Chongqing residents would not be delayed. If air transportation was not possible, the boss of Post Office would use land transportation. If land transportation was not possible, the boss of Post Office would use water transportation. If water transportation was not possible, the boss of Post Office would rely on manpower for transportation. In short, even if the end of the world comes, the boss of Chongqing Post will ensure that the express delivery of Chongqing people is delivered smoothly. Very good. After seeing this news, Huami looked through the information on the shopping website and found that some of the instant noodles, portable gas cylinders, portable gas stoves, etc. that she had bought before had been shipped, while some had not. The ones that had been shipped still accounted for the majority. It's just that air transportation is not available, so we have to use land transportation. I don't know what happened on the way. Some are about to reach Chongqing, and some are still halfway. Many of them have already been delivered to the express delivery stations in the nearest market town. Huami still chooses to trust the boss of Chongqing Post. At this time, if she can get 5,000 out of 10,000 boxes of goods, it is already very good. So she went online to several stores and placed orders for bread worth 30,000 yuan. The reason for stockpiling bread is that it is very convenient, and you don't have to turn on the gas stove to make a fire to cook. After humans, animals, and plants began to mutate, Huami could still fight monsters while eating bread and instant noodles. Just as she was shopping online, a man came from the distance of the ruins. It was the tall and strong Huajing. He seemed to have been wandering around for a long time before he finally found Huami, sweating profusely. From a distance, he saw Huami sitting outside a small supermarket. Huajing raised one arm and waved happily. "Miss Hua, I finally found you." Huami looked up, with a trace of confusion in her clear eyes. "Looking for me? What's the matter?" Huajing had a look of shock on his face. He had a large bag on his back. He sat opposite Huami, took off the backpack, and then took out a few stacks of red bills from the bulging backpack. 10,000 in a stack. "Miss Hua, I know you are very capable. Can I buy some more water from you? I'll give you 10 yuan a bottle." "No, 20 yuan a bottle is fine." Huajing looked embarrassed when he spoke. He hadn't seen him for a few days, and the strong man seemed to have become much more haggard. His hair was greasy, and his clothes looked as if they hadn't been washed for many days. Seeing that Huami was just holding a large bowl and eating spicy hot pot without any response, Huajing continued, "It's like this. Last time, I bought 3,000 bottles of mineral water from you. A relative of ours said that the price of mineral water in Chongqing has increased a lot. So, you too decided to sell those 3,000 bottles of mineral water?" Huami finally spoke. She was holding 2 chopsticks in her hand and was eating a beef ball. When she took a bite of the ball, the soup inside burned her mouth. She hissed and laughed. "That's great. You made a lot of money." Huajing couldn't figure out what the smile in her words meant. He just sighed and said, "We did make a lot of money." The 3,000 bottles of mineral water sold very quickly. However, we always thought that water would be available soon, but in the end, our tap water supply has not been restored. So now their family draws water from the Shangshui River for bathing. But we can't bring water from the Shangshui River for drinking, especially for children. They can't drink river water. Huajing and his relatives then realized what they had sold. The last straw that broke the camel's back was that the natural gas to their home was cut off yesterday. Although the gas company said it was just due to a malfunction and they were carrying out emergency repairs, without natural gas, they couldn't even heat the river water to drink. So Huajing made up his mind and took all the cash in his house to find Huami. He sat opposite Huami, looking ashamed. "In fact, I went to the water plant this morning, but the entrance was full of people lining up to buy water. Almost every few boxes of water released by the plant were sold out. Oh, actually the word buy should not be used. Instead, the word grab would be more appropriate. We have also tried to order water online, but they did not accurately judge the severity of the situation. Although logistics were still running, they could not enter the city at all. Even if they entered the city, they would be delivered to an unknown express station in the city. It is now very difficult for people in Chongqing to pick up a parcel. Sometimes people in the city have to go outside the city to pick up a parcel. Inconvenient logistics has resulted in a poor supply of food and water. Everyone was panicking. Everyone was desperately stockpiling food and water. Some people even moved into temporary rescue centers. Some people couldn't stand the earthquakes in Chongqing and simply left Chongqing with their families. For example, those people who set up stalls outside the makeshift rescue center to clear out their stock. Hua Jing's expression almost pleaded as he finished speaking. "Miss Hua, please sell me some water. This time, no matter who asks, I won't sell it to you." Huami ate a piece of dried orchid and felt a little tired. She pointed with her chopsticks to the small empty space around the supermarket. "You're offering too little. Look at how much a bottle of water costs outside now. It starts at least 50 yuan. How many bottles can you buy with your few wads of money?" Hua Jing lowered his head dejectedly and slumped his shoulders. Thinking of the 3,000 bottles of mineral water that he was tricked into selling by his relatives, he raised his hand and slapped himself hard. Don't go to extremes. Keep a calm mind at this time, and you will slide slower into the abyss. Huami had already finished a large bowl of spicy hot pot and said, "I just want to put up a wire fence here. If you help me with the work for a day, I'll give you a box of mineral water." She was really a little tired, and after eating, she kept wanting to doze off. "At this time I really want to go to sleep." But her level 4 factory and level 4 warehouse are waiting to be upgraded, and the 1 square meter of blackland is not up to par, which is delaying her career. Hua Jing, who was sitting opposite, heard this and was surprised to find such a good thing. According to the price of 50 yuan per bottle of mineral water outside, and a box of mineral water has 24 bottles, then he can earn 1,200 yuan for a day's work. Hua Jing nodded in agreement immediately. Next, Huami added, "You still have to pay in cash, all cash. Therefore, the value of a box of mineral water every day is Hua Jing's cash plus Hua Jing's labor." Even so, Hua Jing had no choice but to nod in agreement. After all, as long as he worked for Huami for a day, he would get a box of mineral water. But even if you work outside for a day, you may not be able to get a box of mineral water. After making arrangements with Hua Jing, Huami returned to the supermarket. The generator set has been installed and is rumbling at the back of the supermarket. As soon as she returned to the second floor of the supermarket, she opened the control panel and saw the health bar on the level 4 factory icon was flashing. Indicates that energy is being charged. The only problem is that the generator set outside is too noisy, and the energy is charged too slowly. If it is charged slowly like this, the diesel will be used up before the energy of the level 4 factory is fully charged. This type of energy will gradually become more expensive and less available as the environment becomes worse. In the end, there was no demand for it. Huami looked helpless, as she had no way to move the supermarket to the temporary rescue center for charging. That's all she can do for now. She'll go buy some gasoline and diesel later to stock up. Having made up her mind, Huami plugged a power bank into every socket in the supermarket and fell asleep. "I originally only wanted to sleep for a few hours, but I ended up sleeping until the next morning." She has a good habit of turning off her phone before going to bed. When she wakes up and turns on her phone, she finds it is flooded with text messages. The director of the water plant urged her to quickly deliver hundreds of thousands more mineral water bottles to the water plant. Afu said that he had sent a truck full of empty mineral water bottles to the water plant, but the plant didn't have a single bottle of water to bring back for Huami, because all the mineral water was taken away as soon as it came off the assembly line. Everyone was in a hurry and said how much they needed the mineral water. There is really no way. Hua Jing also left a message for her, saying that the barbed wire had been half pulled up and he had left as agreed, and would come back today to finish the remaining half of the work. Then, he told Huami that he found a large clump of straw 20 meters away from the supermarket, so he took the initiative to cut the straw and weaved a straw broom. I also helped Huami scan the empty supermarket. Huami ran downstairs and took a look. Sure enough, the supermarket, which was already covered with a layer of dust, was cleaned spotlessly by Huijing. This guy can handle it. She ran out again to take a look at the half-built barbed wire fence. Huijing did a very good job. Finally, Huami remembered the straw mats on her black land. When she left 2 days ago, she casually scattered a handful of grass seeds on the black soil. Did it grow? She quickly teleported to the black soil and saw that the grass that Huijing had just cut had sprouted another square meter of tender shoots. It is estimated that within 2 days, we will be able to harvest another crop of straw. Is this black soil so magical? Huami suddenly felt a little regretful. She bought a lot of fruit seeds last time. If she had known to plant grass instead of fruits directly, she would be able to eat fresh fruits today. Huami was very frustrated and could only turn her grief and anger into motivation. When Huijing came, she gave Huijing a box of mineral water, a bag of bread and instant noodles, and then she left the ruins. Today, she still plans to go to the stalls outside the rescue center to buy some things that can be used for safety and defense. Passing by Ah Fu's truck, Huami slowed down a little, patted the truck bed with her hands, and quietly filled the huge truck bed with empty mineral water bottles. These empty mineral water bottles are to be used to exchange for diesel from the water plant manager. Then she went out of the city to pick up a package and then slowly arrived outside the rescue center. Before entering the stall area, Huami found a secluded place, dragged her electric flatbed truck out of the level 4 warehouse, and drove it into the stall area. To be honest, she actually came here with the purpose of buying building materials. But as I got closer to the stall area, I saw a stall selling sanitary napkins, air sanitary napkins, antibacterial pads, tampons, and sleeping pants are piled higher than a mountain. Although Huami had a lot of money, she had no intention of competing with the people of Shangqing for food rations, so she could only stock up on other things while other prices were cheap. After all, the end of the world has begun, and any material will become very valuable. Stock up on these things you'll need during your period so that you don't have blood all over your legs every time you get your period. Huami rode a flatbed truck forward and washed away the mountain of sanitary napkins. Dragging a mountain of sanitary napkins, she drove forward, quietly collecting the sanitary napkins into the level 4 warehouse. The man who was selling barbed wire yesterday did not appear again, but the stall selling goods outside the temporary rescue center was much longer than yesterday, and there were also a lot more people. She aimed at a stall selling batteries, which sold Nan X batteries, Gene X batteries, and Shuang X batteries, covering almost all battery brands on the market. We also have all kinds of batteries, including number 7, number 5, and button types. Huami's eyes lit up when she saw the energy source, and she bought piles of batteries without any hesitation. She once again successfully took over the battery vendor's stall. This time Huami was not in a hurry. She simply parked the flatbed truck behind the battery stall, sat down cross-legged, and took out a handful of children's self-priming filter-type anti-particulate respirators, a handful of adult self-priming filter-type anti-particulate respirators, and a dozen bottles of ethanol from the large shoulder bag she brought with her. She thought that the last time she sold respirators, business was pretty good, so it would definitely be good this time too. But just as these things were put out, Huami had no chance to secretly move the batteries and sanitary napkins into the level 4 storage bit by bit. A man rushed to her stall. "How much are your self-priming filter-type particulate respirators?" "I want them all." Huami was stunned for a moment, sat on the small stool, and raised 3 fingers hesitantly. 30 each. Buy all, and I want all this ethanol." The visitor hurriedly scanned the code to pay, and swept away all the self-priming filter-type anti-particle respirators and ethanol on Huami's stall, including the children's respirators, and he bought them all. After the man left, the stall owner at the next stall whispered, "Beauty, you're selling these respirators and ethanol at a low price. Why?" Huami doesn't know much about the market. In fact, these self-priming filter-type anti-particle respirators are only a few cents each in the pharmacy. Ethanol may be a little more expensive, only a few dollars a bottle. Her price has increased many times. The stall owner next door shook his head. "You don't know. Earthquakes are becoming more and more frequent. The rescue teams are saving people in the rubble, and sometimes they have to go directly underground, which requires a lot of respirators. The rescue center has to use ethanol for disinfection every day. The air quality is not good. If the smoke and dust are inhaled into the lungs, it will be even more troublesome. It will not only affect the children, but also adults and children. Because there are more and more ruins and the urban environment is in a mess, when a high-rise building collapses, the smoke and dust nearby will not dissipate for a long time. At this time, if you have a self-priming respirator, you will feel much more comfortable. Hwami suddenly realized that when the end of the world came in her previous life, there was a snow disaster first. After the snow disaster, many people froze to death and the social atmosphere was decadent. Survival supplies have become extremely scarce, and the entire order has long been in tatters. No one would think how important this self-contained respirator is. So the next time, Hwami didn't pay attention to so many small details. In front of the stall owner next door, she grabbed a few more respirators from her big bag and threw them casually on the stall. "It's okay. I still have a lot of these things. I'll sell them at this price." Then she found a piece of hard paper and wrote, "Self-priming filter-type anti-particle respirator, 30 yuan per piece, limited to one per person." The stall owner next door was just about to buy a few more Hwami respirators, but when he saw the purchase limit sign, he said, "Hey, you're a weird guy." "Is it weird?" Hwami pouted, stuffed a few handfuls of batteries into her big bag, and said with a smile, "I didn't know about it before, but now I know. It's good for everyone to have one. Everyone can wear one. I call this equal treatment." The stall owner nodded and stretched out a hand towards Hwami. "Okay, you are a kind person. Let me introduce myself. My name is Chi Chuan, and I am known as Xiao Daoi in the underworld." Chi Chuan felt that Hwami was a benevolent person. Hwami was also generous and stretched out her hand to shake hands with Chi Chuan. "My name is Hwami, and I'm known as the rich sister in Jianghu." She was chatting nonsense with Chi Chuan, but a sharp light flashed in the corner of her eyes. She caught a glimpse of Fong Xian in the bustling crowd opposite, who was holding up a mobile phone and taking pictures of her. Hwami smiled and looked at Chi Chuan. "I have something to do. Can you help me look after the stall?" After saying that, Hwami stood up and strode towards Fong Xian opposite her. Maybe it was because Hwami hit her too hard last time. So when Fong Xian saw Hwami coming over, she immediately turned around and ran away. However, after she ran a few steps, Hwami grabbed her collar from behind. Fong Xian hurriedly turned around and shouted, "Sister, sister, please don't hit me. Please don't hit me." The sound was so loud that everyone around stopped and turned to look at Hwami. But Hwami hadn't hit her yet. "Sister, please don't hit me. I know you are in a bad mood, but you can't take it out on me." Sister, hearing Fong Xian shout, everyone around looked at her in surprise. The love story is about sisters hurting each other. The elder sister beat her younger sister in the street because she was in a bad mood. Hwami, who hadn't made a move yet, sneered, "You're saying I'm going to hit you, right?" She clenched her fist and punched Fong Xian in the stomach, her voice cold. "Then I'll do as you wish." A help Fong Xian had never been beaten like this before. She hunched over, feeling that all her internal organs were twisted together by Hwami's punch. For a moment, tears welled up in her eyes. Someone nearby saw that Fong Xian was quite pitiful, so they blamed Hwami. "Hey, why do you hit someone? They live in a civilized society. Let alone two beauties beating someone up in the street. Even if it's two dogs fighting, everyone would find it strange." Hwami held Fong Xian's collar and smiled at the person opposite. "I beat her. So what?" Before she finished speaking, Hwami lifted up the weak Fong Xian and trembled. "My sister is really disappointing. She ran away from home with a man at such a young age, which made our whole family very worried. Sister, do you know that there are so many bad guys out there? You are not very experienced in the world, so you should come back with me." She said this and punched Fong Xian in the stomach a few more times. The weakling Xian was beaten so hard that he kept retching and couldn't even speak. Hwami shouted in surprise, "Look at you. You already have that scumbag's child. The world is so chaotic. How can you take care of yourself out there by yourself?" Fong Xian felt extremely uncomfortable and kept dry heaving, unable to even straighten her back. The eyes of the people around her changed when they looked at her. After all, according to the current situation, The people who could come to the temporary rescue center were either the survivors of the disaster or those who came here to sell or shop. Like Fong Xian, she dresses like a little princess. Looking at her wearing a pink Chanel-style suit, high heels, makeup on her face, and a rhinestone headband on her head, it is obvious that she looks like a wealthy lady who is out of touch with the world. This kind of rich lady is most likely to be deceived by men. So this rich girl who kept retching eloped with a man from outside to this temporary rescue center and was then found by her own sister. However, it was too late. The rich girl was already pregnant with the scumbag's child. Everyone immediately imagined an extremely ridiculous story in their minds and no longer blamed Huami for hitting someone. If this girl were theirs, they would probably beat her too. She is so ignorant. It is already this time and the outside world is in such chaos, but she is still causing trouble at home for a scumbag. Fong Xian had no words to express her pain. Tears welled up in her eyes. She retched and turned back to glare at Huami. People around him gradually began to persuade Fong Xian. Beauty, your sister is doing this for your own good, so please be considerate of her. It's best to stay with your family at this time and not wander around. That's right. If a man really loves you, he should think about how to try to get your parents' consent instead of persuading you to elope. The world outside is not as beautiful as he described to you. Fong Xian, whose stomach was twisted by the beating, shouted anxiously, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. Before she could finish her words, Huami punched Fong Xian in the stomach again. She kept retching and couldn't even stand. Huami still helped her to the corner. In a secluded place, Huami reached out to Fong Xian expressionlessly. Take it out. Fong Xian hunched over, looking at Huami with resentful eyes. He couldn't stand up straight and could only squat down. Who knew that Huami would grab her collar and lift her up again? Without waiting for Fong Xian to take it herself, Huami reached out and took out Fong Xian's cell phone from her pink mink velvet coat. This year's new iPhone is over 10,000 yuan. Fong Xian, you are amazing. With your salary of 2,500 yuan, you actually bought such an expensive phone. Wow. Huami uttered a huh sound, turned on the screen, scanned Fong Xian's face, and the phone was turned on. She flipped through the photo album inside. Fong Xian had just taken a lot of photos, and they were all photos of her and Chichuan. Looking at the camera's captured interactions between her and Ikawawa, to be honest, Huami saw the taste of love. She pointed to one of the photos, in which she and Chichuan were sitting behind a booth, as if they were talking. It just so happened that they both tilted their heads and smiled at each other. This 0.01 second moment was frozen by Fong Xian. Even if there was no love between Huami and Chichuan, one could tell from the photo that the relationship between the two was not simple. Fong Xian, you have such great photography skills. You shouldn't be selling houses. You should be working as a photographer in a photo studio. Look at your sense of the camera. You managed to capture the deep love between me and this friend I just met. Huami exclaimed in admiration and continued to flip through the pages until she came to the interaction between her and Ah Fu a few days ago. In Fong Xian's lens, Huami and Ah Fu are also full of love. Oh no, it's full of the feeling of a gold digger hanging out with a truck driver. TSK, Fong Xian, what are you planning to do? Huami directly opened Fong Xian's WeChat and found the chat history between Fong Xian and Qin Ziren. As expected, she saw that Fong Xian had sent the photo of her and Ah Fu to Qin Ziren. Huami also glanced at the chat history, sneered, and shook the phone at Fong Xian. You really are a white lotus. With this kind of brain, you will definitely become famous in acting. Fong Xian also recovered her breath at this time, her face full of tears. She looked at Huami pitifully, hunched over, hugged herself with her arms, and cried, Sister, sister, please listen to my explanation. I don't mean anything else. Brother Ziren and I are just worried about you. All right. You act like everyone knows what's going on in your heart. You just say bad things about me in front of Qin Ziren and portray me as a woman who can be slept with by anyone, while you are generous and innocent and devoted to Qin Ziren, right? Huami raised her eyebrows and smiled at Fong Xian, gently and generously. Suddenly, she swung her hand and smashed Fong Xian's phone directly against the wall behind her. Fong Xian was so scared that she held her head and screamed. "Ah, my phone. Your phone is broken into pieces." Huami spoke coldly, grabbed Fong Xian's neck, and said viciously, "Originally, you were as weak as an ant in front of me. I really didn't have the heart to deal with you. I have too many things to do. You, a stinky maggot, can go wherever you want to rot. But you hold a mobile phone and spy on me all day, swatting and swatting like a fly. I am so annoyed by you. She has too many secrets." According to the process of human mutation, she actually mutated earlier than everyone else. Now, at the beginning of the end of the world, there are no people with superpowers yet. People like Huami will be captured by the laboratory for research. So Fong Xian stared at her all day long, which made her feel very dangerous. Just kill him directly. Huami's fox eyes narrowed, with a cold and sharp murderous intent in them. "Hey, what are you doing here?" At this time, the sound of garrison was heard behind Huami. A garrison patrol came over and discovered two women in this secluded corner. Huami rolled her eyes and looked at Fong Xian, whose face was red and lips were purple because of her pinching. If this Bai Lian didn't leave the temporary rescue center, she would not be able to kill anyone. Huami let go of her hand and turned back with an innocent look at the two patrol guards who were walking over. "Nothing happened. My sister got pregnant before marriage. I saw that she had trouble breathing, so I wanted to help her lean against the wall for a while." The two patrolling garrisons stared at Huami and Fong Xian with suspicion. Huami lowered her head and glanced at Fong Xian in surprise. She was a little surprised that Bai Lian could have such will. In her previous life, Fong Xian was timid, vain, weak, and proud. She had little ability, but was quite cunning. When encountering a little difficulty, he would burst into tears. When fighting monsters, Huami Shang would go to Fong Xinling for the reward. In short, he was weak-willed and always got into trouble by being self-righteous. I didn't expect that Fong Xian, who was being strangled to the point of foaming at the mouth, could still ask the garrison for help. Looking at the two guards again, they seemed to sense that something was wrong with Huami, and immediately pulled out their guns and pointed them at her. "Don't move. Stand facing the wall. Put your hands up and put your palms against the wall. Don't move. Hurry." Huami stood there motionless. She didn't want to do what the garrison said. "Anyway, this place is secluded and there are not many people around, so I might as well knock out the two guards and kill Fong Xian directly." As they were planning, a deep male voice came from behind the two garrisons. "What's going on?" The two garrisons turned around and immediately asked, "Boss?" Gong Yi, wearing the rescue team's windbreaker and with a neat crew cut, walked forward with a frown. His sharp eyes glanced at Fong Xian, who was crawling on the ground and suddenly stood up and ran away. He looked at Huami again. "Do you want to chase?" Huami shrugged. "No need for that. Next time I kill her, just don't chase me." It was useless for the garrison to chase Fong Xian back. Anyway, Huami couldn't kill Fong Xian in front of the garrison. Gong Yi nodded. He turned around and looked at the two garrisons who were still holding their guns, stretched out his hand, pressed down the guns in the hands of the two garrisons, and whispered, "I know her. She's my friend." Oh, the two garrisons were obviously familiar with Gong Yi. When they heard that Huami was Gong Yi's friend, they immediately put on a friendly smile and looked at Huami rather embarrassedly. "I'm sorry. It's our duty." Huami shook her head. She understood. If she didn't understand, she would have fought with these garrisons long ago. Among them, there was a smart one who looked at Huami, then at Gong Yi, and smiled meaningfully. "Boss, when did you get such a beautiful friend?" Don't blame them for being gossipy. Gong Yi spends all day and night in the garrison camp, and I've never heard that he has any female friends. All the flies around him are male. So when suddenly there is such a beautiful, friend, it is inevitable that people see hope for the boss to find a way out of being single. Gong Yi raised his foot to kick the two men. "Why are you asking so many questions? Don't you have to patrol anymore? Get out of here now." After he kicked the two garrisons away, he looked at Huami with sparkling eyes. "These are the two guys I used to have in the garrison. They're pretty good." Huami said then lowered her head and said nothing, thinking about going to her stall. Gong Yi walked up to her with his hands in his trouser pockets, a trace of fatigue in the corners of his eyes. There was nothing he could do. Even a strong man would be exhausted from turning over rocks and saving people day and night. But he did not show any impatience. He just lowered his eyes and looked at Huami with deep eyes, and no one knew what he was thinking. Huami corrected Gong Yi. She was distracted for a moment, raised her eyes in surprise, and looked at Gong Yi. How do you know I was cheated on? This memory is already very distant to Huami. After all, there is a lifetime distance between her and this emotional injury. So Huami didn't remember many things. When had she met Gong Yi and complained to him? Gong Yi didn't answer her, but his expression was a little grumpy again. He looked at Huami as if he was looking at a female divers who had played with him. His tone was harsh. You are living in the rescue center now? I think so. After all, Huami's neighborhood has collapsed like that. Although Huami's small supermarket was still intact, she was also considered a survivor. As long as she reported her ID number, someone would naturally arrange for Huami to settle down in the rescue center. Huami responded, but didn't tell Gong Yi that she was still living in the ruins. She just pointed in the direction behind Gong Yi. I'm setting up a stall there today. Then I'll take you back. Gong Yi turned around and strode forward. After taking 2 steps, he found that Huami was walking slowly. Fighting is not allowed in the rescue center. If you have any problems, go to the garrison and they will help you. It's just beating up a mistress. There's no need to dirty your hands. He gave gentle instructions, as if he were a husband giving instructions to his wife before going on a long journey, with an eerie familiarity in his voice. Huami tasted it carefully and scratched her head but couldn't remember when she had any contact with Gong Yi in her previous life. So, Gong Yi is a very outgoing person? Really? Right. After being sent back to the stall by Gong Yi, he glanced at Chi Chuan, who was very happy to greet Huami's sister Deheo. I just helped you sell a lot of sanitary napkins and batteries. Here, I scanned your QR code to pay the bill. Did you receive it? Also, all the self-contained respirators and ethanol on your stall are sold out, rich sister. Do you want to thank me? Huami then took out her mobile phone, opened her wallet, and saw a long row of deposit information. She smiled at Chi Chuan, thank you. The only deposits into W's wallet were sanitary napkins and batteries, while the deposits of respirators and ethanol went to the Apocalypse supermarket cashier system. Because of the few items she put on the stall, only respirators and ethanol were put into the level 4 warehouse. So even though Akegawa helped her sell a lot of sanitary napkins and batteries, the money was not counted in her cash register system. But the other person meant well, so Huami could only express her gratitude. Chi Chuan waved his hand to show that it was nothing, and then looked at Gong Yi beside Huami. He winked and asked, Sister Deheo, is this your boyfriend? No. Huami was about to say no when a garrison officer nearby came over and called Gong Yi, boss. Then he looked at Huami, with the same smile as Chi Chuan on his face. That kind of smile is a little hard to describe. It's like making a guess, but not being able to be clear, and not being able to ask directly. Gong Yi nodded towards Chi Chuan, then looked down at Huami. I'm leaving. Come to me if you need anything. Huami pulled her hair and recalled Gong Yi, but she couldn't remember who this man was. She looked at Chi Chuan in despair. All he sold at his stall were underwear. She couldn't do anything to help Akegawa, but in order to return the favor, she offered to buy all the women's underwear on his stall. Can you finish wearing it? With a look of suspicion on his face, Chi Chuan dragged out 5 or 6 large snakeskin bags that were stuffed bulgingly, unzipped them and showed them to Huami. They were all filled with tightly packed women's underwear. Various styles, various colors, various sizes. This must mean at least tens of thousands of pairs of underwear. Huami thought about it and realized that if she wore one pair every day, it would take at least 10,000 days to finish wearing them all, and the new underwear had to be washed with water before she could wear them. She was just about to say that she didn't need that much when she saw Chi Chuan dragging out several large sacks of disposable underwear from the truck behind him. They are the kind of sterilized underwear for travel that can be thrown away after use. Huami's eyes lit up and she nodded immediately. I'll buy them all. I want all the sterilized underwear you have. You can never have too much of this stuff. After all, every day after the end of the world, people are struggling on the brink of life and death. At that time, it is difficult for people to even survive, let alone pay attention to personal hygiene. If you are really busy, you may not be able to take a shower for half a year, and it is common to not change your underwear for dozens of days. Therefore, there are too many women in the apocalypse suffering from gynecological diseases. It's okay to just feel itchy. It's just a minor symptom. So underwear needs to be changed and washed every day. Hwami has no right to interfere with other people's affairs. Since she has the conditions, she still needs to pay attention to her personal hygiene in this regard. A lot. I have a friend who runs an online store selling this, and I help him sell the goods. Chi Chuan said as he dragged out several sacks of disposable sterilized masks from the truck. Do you want this? It just doesn't look good and doesn't stand up straight when you wear it. At this time, it's no use caring about whether it's stiff or not. As long as it fits and doesn't move when you run, it's fine. Hwami didn't care about so many things. Now it was a natural disaster, so there was no need to run around. In a few years, when humans, animals, and plants had mutated, as soon as humans went out, they would be followed by 2 or 3 zombies. Then the survivors have to run. Hwami was very far-sighted. She directly gave all these disposable sterilized underwear and bras to Chi Chuan, including the pile of men's and women's underwear on Chi Chuan's stall. Then, she made an agreement with Chi Chuan that next time, Chi Chuan would bring over all the sterilized disposable underwear and masks from his friend's warehouse. Hwami bought all the goods, no matter how much there was. Chi Chuan seemed to have seen a fellow traveler and thought that Hwami was also a speculator. He said hey, took the money immediately, exchanged contact information with Hwami, and drove away in the empty truck. He was afraid that Hwami would react and return the 12 or 20 sacks of underwear to him. In this way, Hwami was guarding 2 stalls by herself. In the busy stall area, she slowly took out a handful of self-contained respirators and several bottles of ethanol from her big bag. Like ants moving house, she stuffed batteries, sanitary napkins, underwear, and bras into the big bag. By nightfall, all the respirators and ethanol in Hwami's level 4 warehouse were sold out, and she had collected the goods from her 2 stalls and put them on a flatbed truck, which could just fit them. She thought that at night, the people setting up stalls outside the rescue center would gradually disperse, and Hwami could take advantage of the closing of the market to buy some things at a cheap price. As a result, there were more people in the stall area at night. When Hwami was packing up the things on her stall, her vacant stall was immediately occupied by someone else. Everyone is busy selling their goods, and more and more people are bringing their second-hand items here to sell. The stall area during the day has been infinitely extended. Hwami was delighted when she saw it. She didn't care about anything else and got on her flatbed truck, dragging a truck full of goods, and slowly walked to the end of the stall area. While walking, he shopped and stuffed things into the level 4 warehouse. Hwami was happily buying things in the stall area, but Fong Xian, who was leaving, was crying as she walked out of the emergency room area of the rescue center. Waiting for her outside was her colleague and good friend Dai Fong. Dai Fong held the medicine in her hand and held Fong Xian, who looked pale, in a bad tone. Is your sister crazy? How could she beat you like this? This is a civilized society. Call the police. Fong Xian was stunned. Her face turned pale. She covered her stomach and cried with grievance. She is my sister after all. I must have done something wrong, so I made my sister angry. As she spoke, Fong Xian seemed so sad that she couldn't continue. But in fact, after crawling away from Hwami, Fong Xian immediately crawled to the emergency area of the rescue center. While looking for someone to help save her, she also borrowed a phone and called the police. The police didn't have time and said that the rescue center was now under the control of the garrison. Fong Xian was beaten in this temporary rescue center, so she could go directly to the garrison. Fong Xian had contacted the garrison before. After hearing Fong Xian's description, the garrison in the emergency area took it very seriously at first. But when they explained the situation through the intercom and prepared to arrest Hwami, no one knew what agreement they had reached among themselves. In any case, there was no follow-up to this matter. No one from the garrison went to arrest Hwami and ask her the reason. Fong Xian deeply doubted whether no one cared about these fights anymore. Seeing Fong Xian crying so hard, Dai Fong was so angry that she clenched her fists. You are such a heartless sister. Next time I see her, I will teach her a lesson for you. Seeing Fong Xian hunched over and looking quite uncomfortable, Dai Fong said indignantly, You were beaten like this, and the emergency department didn't even arrange a bed for you to rest for a few days? If you hadn't called me, I wouldn't have known you were beaten like this. What should I do now? Fong Xian was in tears and was very angry. The emergency department said there were not enough beds, and I wasn't seriously injured, so they told me not to take up a bed. Did the nurse in the emergency area say that those people who had just been dug out of the rubble, with bloody heads and punctured stomachs, needed beds more? But since Fong Xian was beaten like this by Huami, does she not need a bed? These people in the management system really don't treat people as human beings. Fong Xian felt so pitiful that she was bullied like this. So in the emergency area, I took the nurse's cell phone and made a complaint. After filing the complaint, Fong Xian still had to face reality. There was no bed allocated for her in the emergency department, and she was not considered a disaster survivor because the residential complex where she rented did not collapse. So she still had to leave the emergency area. Among all the people Fong Xian currently knows, Daifeng is the most loyal, so Fong Xian called Daifeng. In this situation, only someone like Daifeng would be kind enough to help her and speak a fair word for her. Seeing Fong Xian being so weak and easy to be bullied, Daifeng was filled with righteous indignation. She helped Fong Xian sit on a bench outside the emergency area, rolled up her sleeves, and walked to a young nurse. "Hey, my friend is in such a state. Can't you give her a bed? She was beaten like this. Where do you want her to go now?" As he was speaking, a lifeguard rushed over with a child covered in dirt in his arms. "Get out of the way. Hurry up and save him. The child is still breathing." The young nurse didn't have time to say anything to Daifeng. She turned around and took the unconscious child and headed to the emergency area, shouting, "Quick, arrange an emergency bed." However, Daifeng pulled the young nurse's arm, causing her to tilt, and she almost dropped the child she was holding to the ground. Daifeng said angrily, "I asked you to arrange a bed for my friend. Why did you say you didn't have one? Go away. Don't hold me." The young nurse angrily shook off Daifeng's hand and ran away. She had no time to pay attention to Daifeng at this moment. Daifeng was so angry that she was about to explode. She looked at the lifeguard who came with the child, but the lifeguard had no time to pay attention to her. He turned around and left in a hurry, busy rushing to the next ruins. So Daifeng took out her cell phone and made a complaint. "These people's service is really bad. I want to complain to them." Under Fong Xian's encouraging gaze, Daifeng held the phone to her ear for a while, then put it down dejectedly. "Xiangqing is such a mess. The complaint phone line is unreachable. Why can't I get through?" Fong Xian looked at Daifeng strangely, wondering if Daifeng was just trying to get her to accept her request. She was able to get through in the emergency room just now, so why couldn't she get through the complaint line when she came out? Daifeng was not as shrewd as Fong Xian. She returned to Fong Xian in a sullen mood. "I don't know. It may be due to the earthquake. The city management is in chaos. The medical staff and garrisons at these rescue centers really have no service spirit at all. Forget it. Why don't you stay at my house for a few days? When I get in touch with your sister, I'll really give her a good scolding." She knew where Fong Xian lived. Fong Xian rented a house by herself and lived right opposite the agency store. But it would not be a good idea to leave Fong Xian home alone without anyone to take care of her at this time. Fong Xian looked at Daifeng with a touching expression. "I'll give you an address. Fong, please take me there." The address is Qin Ziren's residence. In her current condition, she is weak and unable to take care of herself, so of course she cannot go to Daifeng's house. She had to take this opportunity to move in with Qin Ziren. Since Fong Xian insisted, Daifeng could not force Fong Xian to go to her house, so she could only listen to Fong Xian and send her to Qin Ziren's residence. He gave Fong Xian many instructions and warnings before leaving with a worried look on his face. Fong Xian, who had a pale face just now, straightened up immediately after Daifeng left, entered the password of Qin Ziren's electronic lock, and walked straight in. It was a very chaotic time. Everyone was either affected by the disaster and stayed in the temporary rescue center, or they were busy like a top, doing the work of several people. Fong Xian had been to Qin Ziren's house before, so she naturally knew the password of Qin Ziren's electronic lock. When Huami ignored Qin Ziren in the past, Qin Ziren often asked her to stay overnight with him. Therefore, many of Fong Xian's things were left in Qin Ziren's house. She cleaned Qin Ziren's house naturally and looked around the big house happily, thinking to herself that she would just stay here and not leave. Huami will definitely not treat her the same way as before. It seems that Huami is certain that the woman who seduced Qin Ziren is Fong Xian. Fong Xian no longer had the chance to get money from Huami. Although it was a pity, from then on, Fong Xian had no scruples about seducing Qin Ziren. So Fong Xian decided to come out from the dark and try her best to pry Qin Ziren away. Just look at how big Qin Ziren's house is, and you will know how outstanding this man is. Just such a large flat, located in the city center of Xiangqing, cannot be bought without some ability. What's more, Qin Ziren hasn't graduated for long. If Fong Xian manages to get Qin Ziren, she will be the owner of this big house in the future. And Huami? She should pay the price for her willfulness. As he was thinking this, the door opened and Qin Ziren came back. As soon as he entered the room, he looked at Fong Xian standing in the living room in astonishment and asked, "Why are you here?" "Brother Ziren, my sister wants to kill me. She is very angry." Woo. Fong Xian had a tearful look on her face and fell softly on the big sofa in Qin Ziren's house. Her lips were pale and her eyes were filled with tears, as if she couldn't bear the wind and rain. After she finished telling how Huami beat and scolded her and smashed her phone, she went to see Qin Ziren. The expression on Qin Ziren's face seemed quite solemn, but also a bit inexplicably happy. The reason why Huami beat and scolded Fong Xian, and even acted as if she wanted to kill Fong Xian, doesn't it mean that Huami still has him in her heart? The angrier she was, the more it proved that she cared about him. No matter what, hitting someone is definitely wrong. "I will have a good talk with your sister." Qin Ziren sat on the sofa and said to Fong Xian, "It's not appropriate for you to live with me. You know, the person I'm going to marry is your sister. Although she knows about us, she still has feelings for me. If we get back together, she will see you living in my house, and I don't know what she will do." As soon as she finished speaking, Fong Xian took the initiative to climb onto Qin Ziren's legs. She sat on his waist, hooked her arms around Qin Ziren's neck, and looked pitiful. "Brother Ziren, I really have nowhere to go now. It's so chaotic outside, and my sister beat me up like this. Please let me stay here for a few days, Brother Ziren. I will be very obedient." As she spoke, she teased him intentionally or unintentionally. Qin Ziren's eyes grew darker. He pursed his lips and stopped talking, just staring at Fong Xian, his Adam's apple rolling. Just as Fong Xian and Qin Ziren were entangled on the sofa, the lights above their heads flashed. The next moment, the whole world seemed to shake. "Ah, Brother Ziren, help me." Fong Xian only felt a sense of weightlessness. She and Qin Ziren were not wearing pants and just fell down. Qin Ziren's mansion was destroyed by the earthquake. At this time, Huami, who was hated by Fong Xian, was riding her second-hand flatbed truck filled with goods, shuttling through the long stall area. She had no time to hunt down Fong Xian because there were too many things to do right now, and these little people had to stand aside. What's more, there is Qin Ziren. After the end of the world in the previous life, Qin Ziren completely disappeared and rolled out of Huami and Fong Xian's lives. Therefore, Huami's memory of Qin Ziren was also separated by a lifetime. Many things only left faint traces in her mind. If she didn't think about them deliberately, she couldn't remember them at all. Turn on security scan. Completion of security and defense works defense engineering rating. Primary wire fence. We have obtained 2 square meters of black soil in the supermarket backyard. Please select a location for the black soil. A series of prompts appeared in front of Huami's eyes, and she slammed on the brakes. Unexpectedly, Jing worked very late today and finished the wire fence project for her. Huami stopped in front of a stall. Before she could come to her senses, she saw red and green patches in front of her. The red ones could not be used to plant black soil, but the green ones could. But this place is so far away from her Lotus Shengxing supermarket. Can the black land be built here? Huami was a little confused. Her eyes flicked toward a fountain ahead. Because this rescue center temporarily requisitioned a park, and there happened to be a large flat area in the park, and on this flat area there was a musical fountain. The fountain naturally stopped at this time, and it was unknown whether it could spray water again. Miss Hua. Chao Feng stood behind Huami and shouted. Huami shuddered, her eyes fixed on the musical fountain in front of her. When she turned around, she almost kicked Chao Feng in the face. Obtain. Water source X2A line of prompts suddenly popped up and saved Chao Feng's face. Huami stood there in surprise, slowly looking towards the flat musical fountain. 2 square meters of black soil fell on a musical fountain. Although the area is not enough to cover the entire musical fountain, but looking around, her black soil falls on the fountain and there is no change on the ground. In other words, the necessary floor tiles are still there. It's hard and you can't grow anything. If she wanted to plant the bunch of fruit seeds she had bought before, she would have to dig up the tiles on the black soil. Would that damage the underground water pipes? Huami was a little entangled, so much so that she lost her mind and just opened the control panel of the level 4 factory, clicking frantically to make 350 milliliters of mineral water, X10000000. Huami, a newspaper company, needs to produce 1 million bottles of 350 milliliters mineral water to justify the loss of 2 square meters of blackland for growing fruits. Seeing Huami standing still, Chao Feng walked forward. A lifeguard following behind him asked, Chao Feng, who is this? The boss's, friend. Chao Feng introduced Huami's identity to his teammates in a hurry. He didn't know how to introduce her. Let me explain it this way for now. But his teammates understood immediately and looked as if they understood everything. Oh, I have. As we all know, the straight man Gong Yi told all the guards and lifeguards at the rescue center today that he has a friend, a girl named Huami. She will be in the rescue center from now on, so everyone should help take care of her. Didn't say anything else, just these few words. Everyone who should understand understands. Even those who don't understand can understand a little bit. Chao Feng and his teammates came to Huami. At this time, Huami had come back to her senses. She looked at Chao Feng as if she was watching a game screen. Next to Chao Feng was the constantly decreasing level 4 factory energy bar. Without waiting for Chao Feng to speak, Huami asked, What a coincidence we meet here. Don't you need water? Gong Yi had bought hundreds of thousands of bottles of water from her before, and he needed them urgently, but I haven't heard that she wanted to buy water in the past 2 days. Chao Feng smiled and raised his hand to scratch the back of his head. Some water has been transferred in from outside to support us. The water plant in Xiangqing has also been continuously producing water. We have enough water now. I haven't thanked Miss Hua for helping us those few days. After he finished speaking, he repeated it to his teammates. In the first few days after the earthquake, the logistics of the rescue team had not yet responded, resulting in a shortage of mineral water in the rescue center. It was Huami who found a way to get them hundreds of thousands of bottles of mineral water. After saying this, Chao Feng's teammates looked at Huami with more sincere and friendly expressions on their faces. So it was Miss Hua who helped us. If it weren't for Miss Hua, we would have died of thirst in the ruins. This may be a bit exaggerated, but the mineral water crisis during those days was real. You're welcome. If you need more mineral water, you can come to me. Although there is plenty of mineral water now, I don't know when this earthquake will stop. There are many places that need water. Huami probably knew that as earthquakes became more frequent, the earthquake disaster in Xiangqing had attracted widespread attention from the outside world. So relief supplies sent by various parties had arrived in the past 2 days. However, this is not the end. It is just the beginning. Other cities also started to shake, and soon all cities would start to dance together. Not only would there be a shortage of water, but also many other things. Chao Feng and his teammates all responded with a smile. No one took Huami's words seriously. They all thought she was just being polite. After 2 days, when all the mineral water from the rescue center has been distributed to individuals, I believe that there will be no more stalls selling mineral water at sky-high prices. Now, even if people have water in their hands, they are reluctant to take it out. The high price of mineral water is entirely the result of free market regulation. The few of them exchanged a few words of casual greeting, and there was a familiar shaking sound under their feet again. At the same time, Chao Feng and his teammates received a message urgently calling for the idol rescue team. Earthquakes occurred again inside and outside Xiangqing, and immediate rescue was needed. Looking at the backs of the 2 people running away quickly, Huami shook her head, turned around and glanced at the 2 square meters of black land she left on the musical fountain, and reluctantly rode her flatbed truck to a deserted place where there was no possibility of surveillance. With just a thought, she took her flatbed truck and instantly returned to Lotus Shengxing Supermarket. After returning to her own territory, Huami felt very tired as soon as she relaxed. She had never felt so tired before. Even in her previous life, before she developed her superpowers, she had never been so tired. Huami fell asleep before her last thought was on beating Fong Xian. The next day, after having enough food and drink, she ran to take a look at the 1 square meter of blackland outside the supermarket. It hasn't been long since then, but the straw on the ground has grown very tall, densely filling up the square meter of black soil. This scene is very abrupt. After all, there are ruins all around, and the picture is full of despair and desolation. A clump of green grass, growing vibrantly here, does not match the surrounding environment at all. Huami quickly found a medium-sized folding saw from the level 4 storage, grabbed a handful of straw, and was about to saw it. Wait, in light of previous painful lessons, Huami stopped thinking about doing the work by herself. She silently thought in her head, "Can I collect the mat grass with 1 click? Get mat grass x1 ha ha ha." Seeing the prompt, Huami couldn't help but smile proudly. She was almost tricked by this in-time supermarket. Fortunately, she was smart and saved a lot of energy this time. After laughing, Huami felt numb again because her stomach, which had just eaten, began to feel hungry again. Huami took out the instant noodles and bread from the level 4 storage with familiarity, but put them back as she felt she had no appetite. She vaguely wanted to eat something spicy. Spicy? There were some spicy cooked food stored in the supermarket. Huami found them and gobbled them up almost voraciously. In no time, she finished a bunch of spicy duck necks, spicy edamame, spicy chicken feet, and the spicy food. It was difficult for her to suppress the hunger in her stomach, and only then did Huami have time to think about the 2 square meters of black land she had left in the rescue center. Because it was too late yesterday, Huami just wanted to go back to sleep quickly. Today, she slapped her head and remembered a very fatal problem. Although her 2 square meters of black land were left on the musical fountain, there will be more and more survivors in this rescue center. The location of the musical fountain is obviously in the most prosperous and lively area of the stall area. If she can't find a way to occupy those 2 square meters for herself, it won't be long before the stall owners will set up their stalls directly on her black land. Huami couldn't say whether the water source would be damaged by then. Thinking of this, she felt that there was no way to delay this matter. So Huami quickly ran to the rescue center and went straight to the garrison in the stall area, asking if it was possible to set up a small post office similar to the one that sold newspapers and water at the location of the musical fountain. She applied this way for a purpose, because she could teleport to places where there was black soil. Every day, the process of moving from the supermarket in the ruins to the rescue center takes Huami more than an hour. Now that she has 2 square meters of black soil in the rescue center, she can teleport to the rescue center. But there are people everywhere, and she suddenly appears and disappears, which will cause panic among the humans who have not mutated. It would be very convenient if there was a small house on her 2 square meters of black land to provide some shelter. Facing Huami's eager eyes, the garrison responsible for the security of this area said enthusiastically, "Why not? You are our boss's friend, and you are a woman. We will naturally help you with all our strength if we can." The garrison spoke in a strange way, and Huami couldn't figure it out. Could it be that Gongyi had no friends? Why was she treated specially just because she was a female friend? She found that her brain was not working well. However, what made her even more confused was yet to come. She didn't know how much Gongyi needed female friends in the past. The garrisons were very enthusiastic, and Huami didn't have to go find the small post office by herself. They got her a motorhome. Although it was secondhand and looked a bit shabby, it was a large C-shaped double-extension motorhome. With the double expansion doors open, it is no problem for a family of 5 to sleep. To be honest, when the car drove onto Huami's black soil, she felt a sense of surprise. Several garrisons came to her aid and put some wooden racks outside the RV so that Huami could open the awning of the RV, set up the stall outside the RV, and put some things on the racks. It's like a small outdoor supermarket. When it's time to finish work, All you have to do is put the goods and folding wooden shelves back into the RV. Looking at these garrisons who were busy running around and helping her get everything done quickly, Huami felt for the first time that she must hold on to Gongyi's thigh tightly. At least for now, Gongyi is quite useful. While the garrisons were busy, Huami drove her flatbed truck for a stroll outside, found a secluded corner with no one and no surveillance, loaded dozens of boxes of mineral water onto the flatbed truck, and then drove back to the stall area. Whenever she met garrisons and lifeguards along the way, she distributed water, 2 bottles to each person, free, to express her gratitude beyond words. Soon, all the guards and lifeguards at the rescue center knew that their boss had a friend, a woman. She was a rich woman. She asked every lifeguard on duty and resting in the rescue center to drink 2 bottles of water each. In this way, the garrison and lifeguards took her water, and they felt embarrassed not to take care of Huami's business. So while on patrol, everyone thought about patronizing the stall of the boss's female rich friend. Return a favor and live in harmony. As a result, Huami's stall only sold water and men's underwear. After all, she had 1 million bottles of water, and yesterday she bought tens of thousands of men's underwear from Chi-Chuan, but she couldn't wear these men's underwear. Just selling water was a bit monotonous, so in order to provide customers with a choice, Huami started selling water and men's underwear. But hadn't she just given 2 bottles of water to each of the garrisons and lifeguards? Everyone had enough mineral water to drink, so the garrisons and lifeguards who came to patronize Huami's stall bought 2 pairs of underwear each. 1 person, 2. This way you can change and wear them. The garrisons and lifeguards, each holding 2 pairs of underwear, began a new exchange. I bought a green one and a red one. I just picked up 2 at random, 1 large and 1 small. I have 2 straight ones. Do you have triangle ones? Let's exchange them. I accidentally got a thong, but I can wear it. Everyone was discussing intensely, and Huami was busy and exhausted. In the chaos, she remembered Gongyi's care for her. These garrisons and lifeguards all came here because of Gongyi's favor. So Huami found a more delicate handbag, grabbed 10 pairs of underwear and stuffed them into the handbag, stuffed a few bottles of mineral water into the handbag, and handed it to the lifeguard who came to buy underwear. Hello, can you please send this to your boss, Gong? He should still be busy saving people. Thank him so much. The honest lifeguard took the bag and said with a smile, okay, you were so nice to our boss. You even thought of him not having any underwear to wear. Huami. She was silent for a moment, then slapped her thigh and said with regret, if Boss Gong didn't have any underwear to wear, please tell me earlier. I'll send him a few dozen more. When Chi-Chuan appeared in the stall area again, Huami grabbed him by the back of the collar. He looked back and was about to say hello to Huami when he heard Huami happily say, do you still have any men's underwear? This business is so good. I bought all the men's underwear from you yesterday, and I sold them all today. Chi-Chuan looked at Huami in surprise. How come he couldn't sell any of them? He glanced at Huami's stall again and said exaggeratedly, wow, Sister Hao, your stall is amazing. Where did you get so much mineral water? What brand is it? He broke away from Huami's hand that was holding his collar and walked to Huami's stall. He took a look at the bottle of mineral water, which was transparent and had no logo. High-end mineral water often does not need any identification. Shocked by Huami's ability, Chi-Chuan walked around the RV parked on the musical fountain, praising it. This car is great. I'll buy one too. Don't talk about these nonsense. Do you have any men's underwear? Let me tell you, this is a highly profitable product. I sold out all the men's underwear in just a few hours. What does this mean? It means that there is a huge market demand for men's underwear. Huami was talking in a crackling voice. Akegawa shook his head repeatedly and pointed at the truck he drove over. My friend's warehouse is out of men's underwear, but another friend of mine wants to collect some water. There was a serious earthquake in the next city, and half of the city collapsed. So those who were engaged in speculative business wanted to collect some supplies and sell them in the next city. If Huami has extra water, Chi-Chuan can collect some. This is the current situation. All eyes from the outside world are on Xiangqing, so supplies from all walks of life are being pulled to Xiangqing. Who would have thought that the neighboring city has also started to shake? There must be a shortage of supplies over there, and water is also indispensable. Chi-Chuan looked at Huami. Huami had one hand on the shelf and the other on her waist. The expression on her face made it impossible to guess what she was thinking. So Akegawa thought about it and said sincerely, "Don't think I'm morally corrupt when I say this. People need to eat, and we make a living by reselling. Of course, if the neighboring city is hit by a disaster, I will donate money and materials, and I will also give my love. I have elderly parents and young children to take care of, and the only thing I can do is not sell mineral water at a sky-high price." "Okay, stop explaining." Huami waved her hand to stop Chi-Chuan from speaking. She curled her lips and smiled. "While money is still money, it doesn't matter if you make more. Anyway, it won't be long before this money becomes a pile of waste paper or a string of numbers in a mobile phone. When order still exists, money can buy what you want. Once order no longer exists, if you want to get what you want, you can only rely on stealing or robbing. This is the general trend, and morality should not be used to hold anyone hostage." Having been understood, Akegawa heaved a sigh of relief. He was afraid of running into hypocritical people who would accuse him of taking advantage of the disaster to engage in reselling. Fortunately, Huami is not such a person. She asked Chi-Chuan generously, "How much mineral water do you want to order?" Are there 100,000 bottles?" Akegawa still reported a conservative number. "Yes, I'll ask someone to send it over." Huami took out her cell phone and called Afu, asking him to drive the empty truck to the ruins. She also told Chi-Chuan to go to the ruins to get water in the afternoon. Afu's truck certainly couldn't hold 100,000 bottles of mineral water. Calling Afu's truck over was just a cover-up to prove that she still had transportation channels to transport water from other places into Changchun. While visiting the ruins this morning, Huami discovered that although her community had collapsed, half of the underground garage was still intact. The exit of the underground garage is right next to Huami's supermarket. She used this underground garage as a temporary warehouse. The 100,000 bottles of mineral water that Chi-Chuan wanted were all stored in the underground garage, and she let Chi-Chuan and his friends move them by themselves. After the instructions were given, Huami pasted 2 QR codes for payment on the wall of her second-hand RV, plus a piece of paper with the following words: "The stall owner is busy. Please take the mineral water yourself. 5 yuan per bottle." She didn't even bother to pick up the things left outside, and went straight into the RV and back to the supermarket. The stall owner was not there, and Ikawa had also left, so people gathered around. Someone pointed at the shelves full of mineral water and asked, "Is this stall owner an idiot? There's so much water here, but the owner is gone." Don't think too highly of people's hearts. After all, it's like a disco, shaking non-stop. Not all people are bad, but not all people are good either. Someone walked forward as he spoke, tentatively took 2 bottles of mineral water, then turned and left without scanning the code. However, he had not taken 2 steps before he was stopped by the garrison not far away. The garrison was very angry and slapped the man who took the water without paying, making him turn around and said, "I asked you to scan the code to get water. Are you blind, or do you think we are blind? Didn't you see that among the entire stall area, Sister Hao's stall is the most ostentatious? Then why was she so ostentatious? She must have trusted their boss and believed that the garrisons on guard and patrol would keep an eye on her stall. Therefore, taking water without paying is simply a challenge to the garrison's reconnaissance capabilities. Even though there are many people here, they are all helping Sister Hao to watch the stall out of the corner of their eyes." The man who was photographed by the garrison, holding 2 bottles of mineral water in his arms, obediently paid 10 yuan and ran away in shame, cursing. Seeing this, the rest of the people didn't dare to take water without paying. They all scanned the code obediently and paid for the number of bottles of water they took. Huami's stall is doing very good business. After all, although relief supplies are shipped to Changchun every day, resources are limited and people's panic is endless. The mineral water donated by outside parties has also arrived. Just as Chao Feng said, stalls selling mineral water have appeared on the market today. But the mineral water on their stall is priced at least 30 yuan a bottle, while Huami only sells it for 5 yuan a bottle. The price is already very cheap. Who would be reluctant to spend $5 to stock up on an extra bottle of water? Huami had already returned to the supermarket instantly, thinking that as long as there was no big trouble, it would be fine. It didn't matter if some people took the water without paying, as long as they didn't get caught by her. After all, Her mineral water was taken from the fountain under the RV, and the cost was just some diesel. She never expected that so many people would buy water and pay for every bottle of water. It seems that the garrisons really took good care of her. Huami, filled with gratitude, sent a message to Gong Yi. Huami, I sent you some gifts. I asked your teammates to bring them to you. Please take care of me in the future. Gong Yi? Gong Yi, who had just crawled out of the ruins and was covered in dust, sat in the tragic scenery and looked at the messages on his mobile phone. He was in a very heavy mood because the environment around him was so tragic that even a tough man like him couldn't help but feel sad. Chao Feng hurried over and handed Gong Yi an exquisite bag. Boss, go take a rest and we'll take over. This is from Sister Hua. Only then did Gong Yi understand why Huami suddenly sent him such a message. He took the exquisite bag with his hands covered with bloody cuts, opened it, and the expression on his face was hard to describe. After a while, he took out his phone and sent a message to Huami seriously. Gong Yi, I received the gift, thank you. As long as you like it. Huami sat at the door of her supermarket, looked at the text message on the mobile phone screen and smiled. Suddenly I felt hungry again. She took out the spicy hot pot and started eating. While eating, she looked at her level 4 storage, which had been upgraded to level 5 storage. Huami was also not vague. Seeing that the energy bar of her level 4 factory was running low again, the generator set next to it was not charging the level 4 factory as fast as the energy bar was consumed. She decisively upgraded the level 4 factory to a level 5 factory. Level 5 factory, mineral water bottle, specification 550 milliliters, mineral water bottle, specification 1.5 L, mineral water bottle, specification 10 L, mineral water, specification 350 milliliters, mineral water, specification 550 milliliters, limited production. Self-priming filter type anti-particle respirator, specification. Children, X 40,000, self-priming filter type anti-particle respirator, specification. Adult, X 30,000, ethanol X 20,000, painkiller X 10,000 painkillers? Huami wondered why she needed these 10,000 painkillers. Could she use them when her period came? Apart from taking painkillers when her period comes, Huami doesn't know where else she can use them. Even if she was injured in the apocalypse, she rarely used painkillers. Aren't antibiotics the most needed things? What's the point of taking painkillers? In the adult world, there is no word pain. Huami complained secretly and ordered casually, painkillers X 1000, mineral water, specification 550 milliliters, X 10000000. Then he ordered the self-priming filter type anti-particulate respirator, specification. Children, X 40,000, the self-priming filter type anti-particulate respirator, specification. Adults, X 30,000, and ethanol X 20,000. The energy bar hits the bottom. Huami took out her cell phone and called the director of the water plant, but no one answered. This person was strange. He was the one who answered her calls most frequently. Why didn't he answer now? So Huami called the supplier again and asked the director of the water plant what happened. The supplier was in a commotion and shouted at the top of his voice. It's no good. It's no good. Our water plant has collapsed. Miss Hua, we can no longer make water for you. The plant manager has just been dug out of the rubble and is now in the rescue center giving first aid. Huami frowned when she heard this. She quickly turned around and went back to the supermarket. Just as she was about to rush to the rescue center, Hua Jing called her again from behind. Miss Hua, I'm here again. Do you have any work to do here? Hua Jing had no choice. He was unemployed because his company was destroyed last night, so he couldn't go to work today. He wanted to leave Shangqing with his family and stay in the next city for a while. But before leaving, he found that they only had 2 boxes of mineral water. There were more than 30 households of relatives and friends who were preparing to leave with their family, and almost every one of them was short of water. So Hua Jing thought of Huami. He sent his wife and children to the rescue center and came to Huami himself, wanting to exchange his labor for a few boxes of water before leaving. After listening to Hua Jing's explanation, Huami shook her head and said, You don't have to leave. Didn't you watch the news? Half of the city next door collapsed overnight. More people died there than in Shangqing. Because Shangqing has mostly flat land, the construction quality of houses is strictly controlled. There have been casualties these days, but not as many as next door. Many people from Changchun wanted to leave and ran directly to the next city. As a result, they were crushed by the ruins in Changchun once, and then they were crushed by the ruins again when they ran to the next city. According to the garrison of the rescue center, the garrisons and medical staff from various cities who were originally supposed to be transferred to Changchun for support were temporarily changed and all went to the neighboring city to rescue people. From this point of view, it is actually safest to stay in Changchun, especially since we don't know what natural or man-made disasters will happen in the future. The expression on Hua Jing's face could only be described as dumbfounded. He stood outside the supermarket and hurriedly took out his mobile phone to check. Sure enough, the internet was flooded with reports of casualties in the neighboring city. Because too many people died and medical supplies were in short supply, many seriously injured people were being transferred to Changchun. There is a reason for this. Changchun has experienced earthquakes many times before, but the casualties were much less than those in neighboring cities. The medical supplies donated by all walks of life are being transported to Changchun, and most of them have already been transported there. It would be better to transfer the seriously injured to Changchun, a city that is constantly dancing but still functioning. Looking at Hua Jing's petrified look, Huami sighed. She entered the supermarket and soon dragged out a large bag of cameras. I have a job here. Help me set up these cameras near my supermarket. I will give you a box of water and 5 packs of instant noodles every day, which is enough for your family of 5. Also, each bottle of water costs 3 yuan. You have to pay me this money too. No less. The mineral water costs 3 yuan a bottle because Hua Jing has put in the work, so Huami gives Hua Jing a cheaper price for the water. Hua Jing immediately nodded in agreement. In Changchun, except for Huami, there was no other place that sold mineral water at 3 yuan a bottle. After Hua Jing left with a large bag of cameras, Huami also hurried into the supermarket and instantly arrived under the RV of the rescue center. Yes, that's right. She couldn't teleport into the RV because her black soil was not in the RV, but under the RV's ground. So Huami teleported over and lay under the RV. What a poor woman. But Huami didn't have time to think too much now. As soon as she climbed out from under the RV, she ran to the emergency area, fearing that if she ran too slowly, the director of the water plant would die, and she would have no place to buy diesel in large quantities. As soon as she arrived at the emergency area, Huami was stopped by a nurse in white clothes. A group of seriously injured patients have just been transferred in here. You can't go in. The young nurse stretched out her hand with a serious look on her face. A garrison nearby led her away, leaving a path for Huami. The garrison meant for Huami to go in quickly. Huami looked at the guard standing guard in the emergency area with gratitude, took out 2 bottles of mineral water from her bag, and stuffed them into the arms of the young nurse. Please drink. Thank you. After saying that, Huami rushed into the emergency area. Behind her, the young nurse was holding 2 bottles of mineral water, looking at the guards around her with a resentful look on her face. I've told you that outsiders are no longer allowed to enter the emergency area. Look at how messy it is in there. Who is she? The garrison on guard replied, That's our captain's friend. Didn't you see how anxious she looked? There must be her relatives inside. In this rescue center, there is no one who doesn't know Huami. Since they all know each other, even if we can't help her in other ways, we can still give her a favor. When she heard that it was Gong Yi's friend, the young nurse curled her lips and stopped talking. She had a lot of things to do outside. She believed that Captain Gong's friend was a sensible person and would not be like the one named Fong Xian last time. Even though there was nothing wrong with him, he insisted on occupying a bed in the emergency area, used a borrowed cell phone to make phone calls to complain, and almost got into an argument with someone in the emergency area. It's really too ignorant. The medical staff inside were all busy. How could they have the energy to comfort Fong Xian? Huami successfully entered the emergency area and walked forward. Looking around, she saw that the emergency area was located in a large gymnasium next to the park. The garrison divided the gymnasium into small sections separated by cloth. In each small cubicle, there was a person lying on a single bed, groaning in pain. These cries of pain blended together, making the emergency area look like Hades on Earth. Huami went from room to room, wanting to find someone to ask, but all the medical staff she saw were very busy. It is almost impossible to find the director of the water plant from them. Huami seemed very anxious, fearing that she would be too late and the factory manager would have died. Then where can I get large quantities of diesel? Ah, kill me. Kill me. It hurts so much. Ah, just kill me. A man's roar was heard from the partition in front, as if he was enduring great pain. Huami looked over and saw Gong Yi rushing out of the cubicle covered in blood, his eyes bloodshot. He grabbed a doctor and yelled, "Give him pain relief, quickly. If you don't give him pain relief, he will die from the pain." The doctors coming and going all had their own patients to treat. The doctor who was caught frowned, and could only hurriedly tell the nurse something, shook off Gong Yi's hand, and ran to his operating table. He ignored Gong Yi's angry shouting. Gong Yi was wearing a lifeguard's uniform, which was covered in blood and dust. His muscles were tense, and he looked at the nurse again with murderous eyes. In the cubicle behind him, cries of pain were still ringing out. "It hurts, it hurts, kill me, kill me, ah, let him slow down, find a way to let him slow down." Gong Yi stared at the nurse, gritting his teeth and speaking word by word, his tone sounding both threatening and begging. At least make his brother feel better. They saved so many people, and all the people buried in the ruins of Shangqing were dug out by them. His brothers should not be allowed to suffer such torture. The nurse looked like she was about to cry. Her eyes were full of tears. "I'll go get some dew in Lingding. I'm not sure if they have it. This medicine is urgently needed now." There were too many injured people in the emergency area. Every day, a large number of survivors were transferred to the rescue center. Each one was dug out from the rubble. Everyone was in pain. It hurts all the time. So at this time, Dueling and Ding are the drugs that are consumed the fastest. The nurse ran away in a hurry, as if escaping. When she turned around, Gong Yi saw Huami with his red eyes. Huami frowned and walked forward. Before she could say anything, Gong Yi opened his arms and hugged her in a trance. "Chao Feng, my brother encountered a gas tank explosion while trying to save people. He is in so much pain. I am useless. I am not a good captain." Gong Yi murmured. He had no idea what to do at this moment, because there was no way, really no way. Everyone in the emergency area was either in pain or busy. The survivors were struggling between life and death, and the medical staff were busy saving people. Who could Gong Yi go to? Tell him. Who could he go to? He could only see Huami in the vortex of powerless frustration and hug Huami tightly, as if he was holding on to a straw. Huami was almost suffocated by Gong Yi. She raised her hand and patted Gong Yi's arm. "Relax, I have some painkillers. Let go first, and give Chao Feng one a try." The arm that was around Huami loosened. Gong Yi looked down at her, and great joy burned in his dark eyes. "I don't know if it works or not. It's just this kind of painkiller. Well, I have some of it, for when my period comes." Huami explained nervously, because no one had ever taken the painkillers produced in the Level 5 factory, so she didn't know how effective the medicine was. But Gong Yi shook his head. He didn't care about the effect of the medicine. At this time, the small white pill in Huami's hand successfully brought Gong Yi, who was in the whirlpool of emotions, to the shore. Because without this painkiller, there will be no other painkillers. The nurse who was just said to be going to Kaidu and Lungding has not come back yet. This cannot be blamed on the nurse, because she is also very busy, and the unexpected situations that arise from time to time along the way are enough to slow her down. Huami was dragged by Gong Yi's hand and brought into Chao Feng's compartment. She looked at the person on the bed who was burned and covered in blood, and her heart ached. The image of Chao Feng, young and energetic not long ago, appeared before his eyes. And the young man who was very polite when he saw her was now screaming in pain and wishing he died. "It hurts so much, so much." Huami's delicate brows furrowed even tighter. It hurts, Captain. Give me a shot. Give it to me." Chao Feng shouted loudly, but suddenly there was no sound. He lay on the single bed covered in blood and closed his eyes. Beside him, Gong Yi had a pale face. He raised his hands and covered Chao Feng's tightly closed eyes with tears falling from his eyes. "The captain will take care of your family." Are you asleep? Or fainted? Fenger?" He looked at Chao Feng's heaving heart with tearful eyes, feeling a little dazed. Huami, who was sitting opposite him, rubbed her red fox eyes, feeling heavy in her heart. Maybe he fainted from the pain. It's better this way, so he won't be unable to bear the pain. It is impossible that he was making too much noise, and suddenly his mind relaxed and he fell asleep. The light in the compartment was dim, and there was wailing outside. Gongyi looked at Huami. His expression was still broken and full of pain. Just at this moment, the pager hanging on his waist rang again. The rescue team was still calling teammates because there was another earthquake. He lowered his head, rubbed his face hard with his scratchy hands, then looked at Huami and opened his mouth. Before he could finish his words, Huami said, "Go ahead. I'll wait for the doctor here. No matter what happens to Xiaofeng, I'll send you a message." After all, she had met Xiaofeng several times before, and Xiaofeng left a good impression on her. So, for now, she should put the matter of looking for the factory director aside. It would not be too late for Huami to look for the factory director after the doctor from Xiaofeng's place arrived. In fact, this wouldn't take Huami long, because Xiaofeng's injuries were so severe that he couldn't hold on for long. Xiaofeng will die soon. Gongyi looked at Huami deeply. His blood-stained face showed a firmer expression, as if he had returned to his normal state. He stood up, lowered his eyes, and completely enveloped Huami in his shadow. "I'll thank you later. Go ahead." Huami smiled up at him. The kiss mark on her neck was already very faint. After Gongyi left, Huami sat beside Xiaofeng's bed, looking at his bloody chest which was slightly rising and falling. She was afraid that if she wasn't careful, her heart would stop beating. People outside were coming and going in a hurry. No doctors or nurses came because everyone was busy, too busy. Huami felt that Xiaofeng couldn't continue like this, so she let him lie like this. There was not a single piece of healthy skin on his body, so it would be easy to get infected. So Huami took out some mineral water and tried to clean Xiaofeng's wound bit by bit. At first, she just washed Xiaofeng's fingers, washed off the dirt and sand on his fingers, and then wiped his fingers with a little ethanol mixed with mineral water. Finally, he crushed the painkiller and applied it lightly on Xiaofeng's fingers. Seeing that Xiaofeng was still asleep, Huami washed his entire arm again. Finally, she crushed the painkillers again and sprinkled the white powder on Xiaofeng's blood-red arm. Now that things had come to this and Xiaofeng was neither dead nor awake, Huami became even bolder. She found a pair of scissors from the level 5 storage, cut off the burnt clothes that Xiaofeng had stretched out his hand, and then helped Xiaofeng wash his entire body. Then, applied diluted ethanol and pain-relieving powder on the intact skin. After finishing all this, Huami went to see Xiaofeng again. Xiaofeng's brows, which had been furrowed in his sleep, had actually relaxed, and he looked like he was sleeping soundly. Probably not. He died immediately. Huami reached out and felt Xiaofeng's breath. His breathing became much steadier and longer. So Huami stood up, stuck her head out from the curtain of the cubicle, looked outside, and wanted to ask why Xiaofeng's doctor and nurse had not arrived yet. What we saw was a large group of lifeguards carrying one survivor after another who had just been dug out of the rubble. He rushed past her like that. "Doctor, doctor, help, quick." They put down the seriously injured survivor and quickly left the emergency area, fearing that their dusty appearance would bring germs to the emergency area. Someone looked through the curtain of the compartment and saw Xiaofeng lying on the bed, his body covered in burnt red from the explosion. His eyes were red, and he looked at Huami again. Huami opened her mouth. He just fell asleep. "Thank you." The lifeguard, whose name he didn't know, wiped away his tears and could only respond to Huami with these two words, then turned around and caught up with the rest of the lifeguards, rushing to the next ruin. Huami didn't know what was going on in her heart as she looked at the backs of this group of dusty lifeguards, which were gradually lost in the crowd coming and going. She silently returned to the edge of Xiaofeng's bed and washed Xiaofeng's whole body with mineral water. Because Xiaofeng had not yet died, Huami repeated the procedures of cleaning, wiping with ethanol diluted with mineral water, and applying painkiller powder for Xiaofeng several times. A few hours passed like this, and no one knew how many houses were collapsed outside. More and more people were sent to the Shangqing emergency area. During this period, Huami received a text message from Afu, saying that his family had decided to leave Shangqing, so he told Huami that he could no longer help her deliver goods. Now that this water plant has collapsed, I guess Xiangqing will no longer need Huami's mineral water bottles. Huami did not reply to the message. She felt that Afu's family might not get far. Sure enough, less than half an hour later, Afu sent her another message saying that the road out of Xiangqing was collapsed and his truck was stuck in the road, blocking all the cars behind him. He wanted to ask Huami if she could help find a tow removal team to lift up his truck so that other cars could pass first. Huami thought about it and sent a message back to Afu. Huami, the tow truck removal team is very busy and they probably won't be here for a while. You guys should find a spacious place to hide first. Don't say you're the owner of the truck, lest the crowd get angry. After this message, Afu never replied to Huami again, and she didn't take it to heart. She just sat beside Xiaofeng's bed, counting how many painkillers were left in the level 5 storage. Obviously, the painkillers produced in the level 5 factory are quite effective, but they cannot be treated the same as real painkillers. So 1,000 painkillers probably won't be enough. She used a lot of it on Xiaofeng. But now the factory director has not been found, the diesel supply has been cut off again, and Huami's level 5 factory energy bar has reached the bottom. She couldn't produce any more painkillers. There was another noise in the compartment, and Afu's crying could be heard. Huami suddenly stood up from her chair and looked at the sky. It was already dark outside. She lifted the curtain and looked outside. Afu and his family were sent to the emergency area by lifeguards. Miss Hua, Afu, covered in blood, lay on a stretcher, looking at Huami standing beside him, tears streaming down his face. She hurried out of Xiaofeng's compartment and followed Afu's stretcher forward, frowning and asking, "What happened? How did you get into this state? Was it caused by the earthquake?" "No, it was those people who wanted to pass by. They said my truck crushed the road, so that's why they beat us." Afu's head was bleeding. He reached out and grabbed Huami's hand. "It's my fault. I was the one who wanted to drive away in my big truck. My family was beaten because of me. Miss Hua, can you use your connections to save us? Don't ignore us, Miss Hua." He was very panicked, and at this moment, he felt a deep sense of guilt, as if it was really his fault that caused the traffic jam. The public was outraged because his truck blocked the road, and his children were beaten because he acted on his own will. It's all his fault, but he was so panicked. In such overwhelming chaos, he was really afraid of the future. Huami didn't say anything, but just followed the stretcher. The lifeguards carrying Afu walked quickly and placed Afu and his family in the lobby of the emergency area. Like Afu, there were many people lying on stretchers, all crying out in pain and all covered in blood. Huami glanced at the two children lying next to Afu. They were only in their teens and both had bloody heads and looked like they were dying. She turned around to look at the medical staff in the hall. There was only one doctor and 2 or 3 nurses, who were busy cleaning and stitching people's wounds in the hall and were too busy to come to Afu. So Huami reached into her large shoulder bag and took out a few clean towels, 2 bottles of ethanol, a few bottles of mineral water, and a few painkillers from the level 5 storage. She helped Afu sit up and gave him the things in her hand. "The medical staff here probably don't have time to take care of you. Clean your wound first, and then take care of your wife and children to prevent their wounds from getting infected." "Thank you. Thank you, Miss Hua, Director." Afu was crying, holding a pile of things given by Huami in his hands, looking at the water plant director who was sitting opposite him with a broken expression on his face. Huami quickly turned around and looked at the factory director in the hall. He was in a mess, with white dust all over his hair. He was leaning against the wall, without even a stretcher. Looking more closely, one of the factory director's legs was covered in blood and was blurry, without even the glass shards cleaned off. He was in so much pain that he was not fully aware. Even when Huami came over and squatted in front of him, he did not recognize her. "How long have you been sitting here?" Huami asked, but the factory manager seemed not to hear her and did not answer her. She stuffed a painkiller into the factory director's mouth and gave him some water. The factory manager slowly came back to his senses. There was a thick layer of dust on the lenses of his glasses. He stretched out his trembling hands, tightly grasped the mineral water bottle in Huami's hand, and suddenly began to drink the water in big gulps. The rescue team's water has not been produced yet. The water cannot be cut off. The water cannot be cut off. He looked like a madman, looking at Huami and muttering, "People can go without food for a few days, but they cannot go without water. Something terrible will happen, and many, many people will die, Miss Hua. Many, many people will die. I know, leave it to me. Where did you get the diesel? If you give me the way, the water won't be cut off." Huami comforted him and gently advised that her level 5 factory needed energy, and as long as there was energy, she could produce water. The factory manager was obviously in so much pain that he was unconscious. He didn't know what others asked him, but when Huami said that if she was given diesel, she could produce water, the factory manager seemed to have a last burst of light and became exceptionally clear-headed. He gave Huami a phone number, which belonged to a person in charge of the Shangqing gas station and was a relative of the factory director. This person is the one who supplies diesel to the water plant and Huami during this period. He is a very capable person and can obtain large quantities of oil through legal means. Huami got the phone number, helped the factory manager who was sitting on the ground up, and went to Chao Feng's cubicle. "I'm going to try to get water for the rescue team now. Director, please go stay with a friend of mine for a while. If he dies, remember to let me know." The entire emergency area was in a mess. Afu saw Huami, and the factory director had left, so he hurriedly called his wife. Both of them were covered in blood, but they were still stumbling, each holding a child, and followed behind Huami. The couple and their 2 children were beaten by a crowd, and their injuries were much lighter than Chao Feng and the factory director. As long as they take painkillers to block the pain, Afu and his family will have basic mobility. Chao Feng's cubicle was not big, so Huami put the factory director and Chao Feng together in order to take care of both of them at the same time, and also asked the factory director to help watch over Chao Feng. If Chao Feng died, she would be notified the first time, and she could also notify Gongyi the first time. After settling the factory director on a small stool, Huami took out a pair of tweezers, 3 bottles of mineral water, and 3 bottles of ethanol, and handed them to the factory director. "Director, please clean up the glass shards on your injured leg first and mix some ethanol with mineral water to disinfect it. There is no other way in this situation. If you can do it yourself, don't wait." The factory manager took the pile of things handed to him by Huami in a daze, lowered his head slowly, and began to pull the glass shards off his legs. Maybe it was because he took Huami's painkillers, he felt everything except pain. Huami saw that the factory manager did as she said, and turned around again, seeing that Afu's family had also come over, but there were no extra benches in the cubicle for Afu's family to rest. Huami casually reached under Chao Feng's bed and actually swept out a handful of straw and 2 quilts from the level 5 storage. "I can't find a bed. You guys sit on the straw first. I'll be back soon." After saying that, Huami didn't have time to care about Afu's family. She just hurried out of the emergency area and called the factory director's relative at the gas station. The call was able to get through, but the person on the other end was very busy. He just said that he had oil, but the price would be 3 times higher, and that it had to be purchased in tank trucks, because he was also taking a risk in selling oil to Huami. If the line with the factory director had not been cut off, he would not have answered Huami's call in person. Huami hurriedly ordered 10 tank trucks of oil. She did not bargain with the other party. She transferred him whatever amount he wanted. It is said that the unit is tank trucks, but in fact the oil is packed in large barrels, and 1 tank truck can hold a lot of oil barrels. The other party left the address of a gas station and asked Huami to go there to pick up the gas. Huami called Chi Chuan and asked him to help borrow a truck. She drove her truck to the gas station to fetch oil. After loading the barrels of oil into the truck, Huami symbolically drove the truck around the gas station. After storing the oil in the truck bed into the level 5 storage, she went back to load more oil. It took many trips back and forth before we finally transported all the diesel in 10 tanker trucks. Level 5 storage was successfully upgraded to Level 6 storage. After the generator set was running smoothly, Huami looked at the Level 5 factory energy bar that was filling up little by little. She produced all the remaining Painkiller X 9000 tablets without hesitation. Then upgrade the factory. Level 6 factory, mineral water bottle, specification 550 milliliters, mineral water bottle, specification 1.5 L, mineral water bottle, specification 10 L, mineral water, specification 350 milliliters, mineral water, specification 550 milliliters, mineral water, Specification 1.5L. Limited production. Self-priming filter-type antiparticle respirator. Specification. Children, X 50,000. Self-priming filter-type antiparticle respirator. Specification. Adult, X 40,000. Ethanol, X 30,000. Painkiller, X 20,000. Sterile gauze, X 10,000. That's great. We can actually produce sterile gauze in limited quantities. Hwami clicked as much as she could and ordered all the limited edition items. She also left a message to the factory director's relative, saying that she needed to buy more oil, and this time she wanted to buy 20 tanker trucks of oil. The other party seemed startled and did not reply for a long time. After a long time, he replied cautiously, "Petrol station manager, who are you?" "Hwami, I know Gong-yi. What do you think?" "Petrol station manager, I'm sorry, you should have told me earlier that you were collecting supplies for the rescue team. So our prices are still based on the market price. I'll refund you the extra money. There is no need to talk about the reputation of the rescue team. They are all kind-hearted people. No one with a bit of humanity should make things so difficult for the rescue team's logistics. And there is nothing wrong in having a good relationship with Gong-yi. He is a great figure. Gong-yi originally had a lot of connections in the garrison and had a promising future, but he was only seconded to the rescue team. If it weren't for the earthquake, Gong-yi would have returned to the garrison and been promoted. Therefore, the person in charge of the gas station did not raise the price of Hwami's gas and returned the extra money he had charged her before. He also prepared 20 tank trucks of oil and placed them directly in the gas station warehouse, waiting for Hwami to pick them up. Hwami looked at the sky, then opened her phone to check the text messages, but still hadn't received any information about Chao Feng's death. Several days passed by the time she had collected fuel from another 20 tanker trucks. During this period, no one knew what was going on with Chao Feng, so as soon as Hwami finished her work, she immediately went back to the bottom of the RV, got up and ran to the emergency area, ready to see what was going on with Chao Feng. When Hwami hurriedly ran to the door of Chao Feng's cubicle, she didn't know how she could catch her breath and lay in the corner retching. "I ran too fast, there's nothing I can do." She quickly rubbed her stomach and walked into Chao Feng's cubicle, only to find that Chao Feng, the factory director, Ah Fu's wife, and Ah Fu's 2 children were all crowded in the cubicle. The children all slept on the floor covered with straw mats. I don't know who had woven that large bunch of straw into a mat. The straw can be woven into a mat. Ah Fu and his wife were lying next to their 2 children, and the factory director was lying on the edge of Chao Feng's bed. And Chao Feng is still alive. Hwami washed his whole body clean. The bleeding of the explosion wounds on his body had stopped and a layer of soft blood scabs had formed. The skin on his face was burned and cracked into patches, a fleshy red. The hair was burned and became sparse, and the scalp was red and bald. The handsome and cheerful young man is gone. Hwami doesn't know how to describe the current Chao Feng. She feels a little sad. As if he was aware of someone approaching, Chao Feng, who was lying on the bed, slowly opened his eyes. He looked at Hwami, blinked, and asked in a hoarse voice, "Captain, are you okay?" "He's fine. Are you still in pain?" Hwami skillfully took out a painkiller and stuffed it into Chao Feng's mouth. He held it in his mouth with difficulty and swallowed the painkiller with the water Hwami fed him. Seeing him like this, Hwami's discomfort in her heart intensified a lot. She sat on the edge of Chao Feng's bed, looking at the burns exposed on his arm. "How about I bandage this wound for you? This is not a solution now. You still have to be strong," Hwami said as she took out mineral water, ethanol, and painkillers, and following what she had done before, she expertly cleaned the foot-long wound on Chao Feng's arm, rubbed diluted ethanol on it, applied painkiller powder, and then took out sterile gauze and wrapped Chao Feng's arm. Before, Chao Feng was covered with wounds and couldn't cover himself with a quilt. Now his wounds were covered with blood scabs. So Hwami just reached under the bed, took out a thin blanket from the storage, and covered Chao Feng with it. Looking at Chao Feng again, he seemed to be in good spirits. Since he felt no pain in his body, his mood was much better. Seeing Hwami busying around and bandaging the wounds on his legs and body, he gratefully said, "Sister Hua, thank you. Don't be polite. Get better soon. I just bought a lot of things under the name of your rescue team's logistics. I'll be in trouble if this gets exposed. Hope you get better so that you can cover up for me." Huami said randomly. In fact, everyone knew that it would be a miracle for Chao Feng to survive after being blown up like this. The reason why I am so energetic now may be a last burst of energy. But if Huami didn't say something like this to lighten the atmosphere, the surrounding environment would be too depressing. Chao Feng understood, and he raised his fingers with difficulty. If he did this, the skin on his fingers would bleed. His fingertip pointed to a pile of clothes in the corner that were cut into a mess by Huami. My ID is in there, Sister Hua. I'll leave the logistics department to you. This was to cover up Huami's lie, and also to entrust the logistics of the rescue team to Huami. He knew she had a way. Huami choked with sobs as she found Chao Feng's ID and a USB flash drive from the pile of tattered clothes. Here are the rescue team's bank account numbers and passwords, as well as the procurement managers for various supplies. Chao Feng spoke with difficulty, as if he was entrusting his son to someone before his death. He felt that he was not in good spirits and wanted to sleep. I'm not going to die. I'm just really tired and want to sleep. Seeing his eyes squinting, Huami reached out her hand, covered his eyelids and closed his eyes. Then Huami took out her cell phone and prepared to type a message to Gong Yi to report the news of Chao Feng's death. But Chao Feng's heart was still beating fast. This young man is still alive and well. He just fell asleep. Huami had no choice but to take out a computer from the level 5 storage, plugged in the USB drive, and sat on the edge of the bed, waiting for Chao Feng to die, while looking at the information about the rescue team's logistics department in the USB drive. The rescue team's logistics department has sufficient funds. Some time ago, before the earthquake spread to other places, people from all walks of life donated money to Xiangqing. All this money was transferred by Gong Yi to the account of the logistics department. About 10 billion. This man's power was so great that Huami was shocked. Chao Feng is a lifeguard in the rescue team who is responsible for receiving supplies. In fact, he does not need to participate in rescue work on weekdays, but there are too few professional lifeguards in Xiangqing now, so he has to take over. Now that he is lying in the rescue center, there is a backlog of material ordering and receiving work, including large quantities of respirators, mineral water, ethanol, etc. As for gasoline and diesel, a batch should have been ordered 3 days ago, but because Chao Feng was bombed, this work was not done. The rescue team has a number of professional excavation equipment, all of which require gasoline and diesel. If these energy sources are not replenished in time, even the most basic rescue work cannot be carried out. Huami had no choice but to search out Chao Feng's cell phone from his messy clothes. Unfortunately, the phone was blown to pieces, but the SIM card was still good. Among the 10 calls to the supplier contact information recorded in Chao Feng's confidential documents, at least 8 were not answered. Either busy signal or no one answered. Even the oil dealer's phone call was not connected. It is obvious that there are big problems with the supply of materials on the market. Fortunately, the factory manager provided Huami with an oil channel. Huami directly called the water plant director's relative at the gas station and ordered 100 tank trucks of 92 gasoline, 100 tank trucks of 95 gasoline, 100 tank trucks of 98 gasoline, and 1,000 tank trucks of number 0 diesel for the rescue team. Let Tongyi pull it to an open space behind the rescue center. The other party was almost scared to death by Huami's move. Does it take so much oil? He asked cautiously on the other end of the phone, but he had no doubts about Huami's original intention of ordering oil. After all, Huami is now genuine and is helping the rescue team to order gasoline and diesel. What she got from Chao Feng were the secrets of the rescue team's logistics department. Huami smiled while holding the phone. What do you think? With the world in such a mess, it would be okay for the rescue team to stock up on some extra fuel, right? Of course it's no problem, but I can't get so much oil at once, so I can't deliver it to your designated place in one day. It was also the first time that he felt the limitations of his own abilities, and there came a day when he was unable to control the oil. Huami understood the other person's difficulty very well. Take your time to adjust it. Adjust as much as you can. It's already this time, and the end of the world is completely different from the one in Huami's memory. She doesn't know what will happen in the future. As for the current supplies, we can only deliver as much as we can. Among these various types of gasoline and diesel, 1,000 tanker trucks of diesel were bought for her using her own money. She just placed the order in the name of the rescue team. No matter how many would come in the end, It would be great if 500 tanker trucks could arrive at this time. What's more, the oil price is still the market price before the end of the world. The factory director's relative gave Gongy face. Okay, we will definitely do our best to cooperate with the rescue team. By the way, didn't you order 30 tank trucks of diesel from me earlier? I'll bring some over for you as well. The other party seemed very polite and didn't think there was any difference between the diesel and gasoline that Huami ordered several times. Huami agreed immediately, explained something to the factory director who had just woken up, then walked out of Chao Feng's cubicle and went to the open space behind the rescue center. The site had been cleared long ago and was used specifically to store relief supplies, with garrisons guarding it. Huami explained her purpose to the garrison guards. Before she even took out Chao Feng's ID, she just said that she was here to replace Chao Feng. Then the garrison guards let Huami in. Every garrison knows the name Huami. She is the only female friend designated by Boss Gong. What's more, the rescue team is indeed short of supplies now, and Huami didn't come in to do anything else. She came here to receive the supplies. Soon, the factory director's relative came over with barrels of oil. It definitely couldn't be delivered all at once, but fortunately, this relative had a sufficient supply of oil, and soon he brought a truckload of oil to Huami. After a while, another truck of oil came. Although he couldn't deliver all the oil Huami ordered at once, fortunately, the oil tankers kept coming. All the garrisons who were able to help unload the tanker truck went to help. Huami took advantage of this opportunity to find a blind spot where no one could possibly see her, and there could be no blind spot under surveillance, and took away the diesel barrel she had ordered. Obtain. Diesel X 1000. The diesel in 1000 tanker trucks has not been delivered yet. They are just being delivered to wherever they are. One tanker truck can carry many barrels of diesel. But Huami was not in a hurry. The oil barrels had been delivered here, there was a venue, and there were garrisons to help guard them. She could just come and collect her diesel every once in a while. Just after collecting the diesel, people from the rescue team came to collect supplies. They wanted 2,000 self-priming filter-type anti-particulate respirators, 2,000 bottles of ethanol, and 2,000 bottles of mineral water. The garrison in charge of guarding the supplies looked embarrassed. We are out of respirators and ethanol. Yesterday, someone from the emergency department came to borrow 3,000 respirators and 3,000 bottles of ethanol. They are also in urgent need of these. The lifeguard who came to get the supplies was furious. What's going on in the emergency area? Aren't there supplies from outside? Why can't they even get respirators and ethanol? In fact, they had all heard about Chao Feng's situation. The management of the emergency area was in a mess, and they couldn't even get painkillers. It was said that it was only with the help of Sister Hua that Chao Feng felt better. A lifeguard asked quietly, "Has Chao Feng gone yet? Should we go give him a ride?" The atmosphere suddenly became very depressing, and the lifeguards who were stationed there and came to get supplies all fell silent. Huami was standing behind a pile of supplies. She quickly placed 20,000 self-contained respirators, 20,000 ethanol, and 20,000 mineral water, specification 550 milliliters, from the level 6 warehouse on the open space in front of her. He also transferred money from the rescue team's account into his own account. Once the money was deposited into her account, it was automatically counted as sales in the Apocalypse supermarket cashier system. She did not increase the price of the supplies she sold to the rescue team. She sold them at the same price as the rescue team's logistics department had ordered them from others. These accounts must be settled well. She does not covet the 10 billion from the rescue team, but she also does not want to be a good person and provide her supplies to the rescue team for free. After all, she still has factories to upgrade. After the bill was settled, Huami raised her voice and said, "I just asked the boss who sells oil to help me purchase a batch of respirators, ethanol, and mineral water. Come over here." The garrison and lifeguards immediately turned around the barrels of gasoline and saw Huami standing next to a pile of mineral water. A lifeguard breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile, "Our sister Hua is still reliable and has foresight." The lifeguards who came to move supplies came forward one by one, and everyone who passed by Huami gave her a kind and warm smile. The garrison guarding the warehouse was confused. When they helped unload the goods, did they unload the respirators, ethanol, and mineral water? It might be that the people from the oil factory moved these supplies down, and they didn't notice. No one thought about it deeply, because these supplies are urgently needed at the moment, not only by the rescue team, but also by the emergency area. Well, since Huami has already placed an order, just use it. Watching the young men of the rescue team carrying the supplies away, Huami said something to the garrison, hurried back to her RV, and filled it with mineral water. As long as there is sufficient diesel and the water source is not damaged, Huami can produce unlimited mineral water. So just sell as much as you can. She not only wants to sell it to the rescue team, she also wants to sell it to the survivors in the entire rescue center. Even many people in Xiangqing who were not affected by the disaster could come to her stall to buy mineral water. Huami filled the empty shelf outside the RV with mineral water and then walked towards the emergency area. As she walked to the door, she smelled a bloody odor. She turned around and suddenly started to retch. "Are you okay?" The nurse at the entrance of the emergency area already knew Huami. She came over, supported Huami, and asked, "Are you pregnant?" Huami was stunned. Then she straightened up. "How is that possible? I don't even have a boyfriend. So who would I get pregnant with? It's just that the smell of blood makes me uncomfortable." In her 2 lifetimes combined, she had only had 1 collision experience with the bought duck. She didn't get pregnant in her previous life, and there was no possibility of getting pregnant in this life. Huami waved her hand and took out 2 bottles of water from her bag and gave them to the nurse. "Here, drink. I'll go in and see Xiaofeng." Before she finished her words, her WeChat message rang. It was Gongyi sending her a photo. The photo was of a ruin, in which Fang Xian and Qin Ziren were lying without pants. It is not difficult to imagine what these 2 people were doing when the earthquake just happened. "Gongyi, I didn't expect to save these 2 things. I'll send them to you right away." Huami lowered her head and replied, "Huami, help me kill them, and I'll take care of your mineral water for the rest of your life." "Gongyi, that's not possible." The 2 of them exchanged messages and joked with each other, and they had a tacit understanding that neither of them mentioned Xiaofeng. Gongyi didn't dare to ask, and Huami hadn't seen Xiaofeng in person, so she didn't dare to say anything. "Huami." A powerful voice sounded behind Huami. It was a woman calling her. Huami turned around and saw it was Daifeng. She sneered and pretended not to know Daifeng. "Hey, who is this?" Daifeng was covered in dirt, her hair was disheveled, and she was wearing the uniform of a real estate agency. She walked over in high heels and looked at Huami unhappily. "Don't you remember me? I work in the same store as your sister, and you're here to see Xin too? Humph, you still have some conscience." This morning when she was at work, her real estate agency store was suddenly collapsed. Fortunately, Daifeng was standing at the door of the store at the time and was not injured. But it also scared her a lot. They should be here soon. I don't know if Gongyi will give them a pair of pants. Huami thought about it in her mind, then looked at Daifeng and said with a smile, "I'm sorry, I don't know you. Nor do I know Xin. How could Huami not know this woman named Daifeng? This woman was simply the number 1 fool around Fang Xian, the green tea lover. When the end of the world just came, Fang Xian became dependent on Huami and brought Daifeng to Huami's house. Once Fang Xian didn't want to go out to look for supplies, Daifeng would definitely speak up for Fang Xian. One of them cried, and the other blamed Huami forcefully. It seemed that going out to look for supplies was what Huami should do. Even so, Huami tolerated Daifeng's reckless behavior around her for a year. Daifeng, who had not been out for a year, was pushed off her kayak by Fang Xian when the city was submerged in floods. After pushing Daifeng away, Fang Xian looked at Huami with tearful eyes. "Sister, she bullies you so much. I have disliked her for a long time. Sister, there are only 2 seats in this kayak. I have no choice. I can't let you fall into the water." Ugh. She suppressed her nausea and refocused her attention on Daifeng. As expected, Daifeng was furious. She put one hand on her waist and pointed the other finger at Huami's nose and shouted, "I'm telling you, don't go too far. Huami, you are such a ruthless person. If it weren't for Xian's father who raised you, you would have died somewhere. You are so ungrateful. What's your business?" Huami grabbed Daifeng's finger that was pointing at her, twisted it hard, and bent Daifeng's finger toward the back of her hand. Amid Daifeng's screams, she looked indifferent. "You have nothing to do all day long, helping others to fight against this and that. Are you sick, or is your life empty and boring?" Who supports me? What does it have to do with you? After all, it's not you who supports me. I don't know what's good for me. So how can you know what's good for me? Do you really think you are something? Huami wanted to say these words to Daifeng in her previous life. Daifeng was never absent from other people's affairs. This woman had no sense of boundaries and could interfere in everything, accusing others of her own right and wrong. After all, what does the grudge between Huami and Feng Xian have to do with Daifeng? In her previous life, Huami was a very cowardly person. Because her parents died and she was raised by her uncle since childhood, she was sensitive and had low self-esteem. She even developed Stockholm Syndrome while living under the care of her uncle. This is why Feng Xian could take advantage of Huami for the rest of her life, and even took Daifeng to live in Huami's house for a year without doing anything, and only came out of Huami's house after the extremely cold weather passed. This is also the reason why Daifeng said Huami was ungrateful, because Feng Xian used to have Huami under her control. Everyone around Feng Xian knows that Huami has received great favors from the